Board members' names are in front of you on the dais. Code Enforcement Officer Mike Carnazzo is with us as well this evening. The way we operate is I'll ask you to come up, I'll swear you in, we'll hear your case, we'll take questions and answers from, or comments from the board. I'll open it up to the public for any discussion or, anyone who wants to speak on any application. If you do come up, please sign your name on the name and address if you want to speak on any application on the piece of paper on the dais or the podium, and we'll hear the case. Once we close a case, there's no further input, so please bear that in mind from the public at all. Will you all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Our first case tonight is a holdover from last month. It's Oscar Chavez and Giovanna Toranzo for a variation of Section 15615, seeking a variance for permission to build addition to kitchen, south side of house. The property is located at 710 South Lake Boulevard, Mahopac, New York. Tax map 75.11-2-15. Good evening, folks.
Good evening, my name is Giovanna and Oscar.
I just got to remind you to speak into the microphone
Oh,
because it's
sorry.
being recorded for minutes. Everyone keep that in mind, please.
Okay. Okay, my name is Giovanna Toranzo and Oscar Chavez.
The address, all right. Raise your right hands. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you. Explain your situation, please.
Yeah, we are requesting to do a addition in the kitchen. It's very small addition where we're requesting to make
it's
the
only
kitchen a little small.
1.23 feet?
Yeah, it's a little bit, yeah.
That's all you want, right here.
Yeah,
This is
but-
all you want.
It's because the kitchen is really small right now, so.
So what are you doing? You're bringing it out, how much longer? How many feet?
It's going to be one.
No, you need a variance of 1.23 feet, but how much bigger are you making the kitchen?
I don't know where you can see that here. No.
I lost this one.
I have it right here, Charles.
You have it?
It almost looks like
This
it's coming
is-
out maybe a foot, just look at the variance, 15,
I don't know how to
and
read this
14,
paper, sorry.
and then here it's 13, 14, so it's probably just coming out a foot.
Yeah. well,
It's about 4
Same
feet.
one.
The,
Okay.
the addition's about 4 feet, but it's squaring off from the existing house where it's already there.
All right, so I assume there's no property you can buy that can help bring this into conformance, correct?
Yeah.
You're all landlocked there, your neighbors own the property adjacent to you. Have you spoken to your neighbors? No issues or concerns?
Well, we have one, which is behind us, and I don't think he had a problem. We just let him know that we want to do that, and it's
Okay.
not a problem.
That's good. Board members, John?
No questions.
No questions, thank you.
No questions?
All
No
right.
questions.
All right, anybody in the public wish to speak on this application? Okay, I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Second.
Second by Rose, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, application number 2, Frank Schmidt for a variation of section 15615, seeking an area variance for permission to retain 2 sheds. The property is located at 50 Steiner Drive, Mahopac, tax map 64.9-1-8. Good evening. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Frank Schmidt. I live at 50 Steiner Drive in Mahopac.
Okay, raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes,
Thank you, sir. All right, you have 2 sheds here, correct? How long have they been there?
I moved up here 55 years ago. I built the sheds. When I got out of the Navy, I was in the Seabees, so the first thing I did was build more stuff.
Good. You needed to keep your expertise going, I guess, right?
Yeah, in those days, I had a half acre and I needed space to store stuff.
So you didn't realize you needed a permit? Or
I
or a
didn't know in
variance?
those days. I didn't know those days. Everybody was just doing things. It
So
was
it's-
like
it's
Wild
been-
West.
It's been there since that long?
Yeah. One shed has been there that long. The other shed is a pre-made shed, and I probably have it there about 20 years.
The one on the driveway?
The one on the driveway,
The
yeah.
8x10.
The 8x10.
8x10 looks pre-made, yeah.
The one on the back, I built from scratch, yeah.
Okay.
Is that 2 sheds in the back or 1?
They're really one, but it's like, one is like, I extended it a little bit. And it's the extension that is poking its nose into the 10-foot. You know, so I need 2 feet back there.
I mean, you have no neighbors, like, close house-wise in the back, and you're pretty well screened, so.
In the back, it's like 200 feet of woods before you even get to their yard.
So I'll ask you the same questions. There's no property you can buy to help bring you to conformance, right? That's all
No.
landlocked back there. And then, have you spoken to your neighbors? Anybody have any issues
No,
or
nobody,
concerns?
no, you know, there's no problem.
Okay. I'll start down here. Julie, any questions?
No questions.
Silvio?
No questions.
Mel?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Schmidt, thank you for your service.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to ask you something. Who owns that fence wall kind of structure behind the two sheds? It looks like it's falling down. It looks like it could be a hazard. Do
The
you
fence
own that?
between-
Do you own that fencing?
Yeah, I put that up years ago because my neighbor's dog was a pain in the neck.
It looks like you need to take care of that, because that could
Yeah,
be a
yeah, I know, I
dangerous
gotta
situation.
replace that, really.
Yeah, it looks like it's a dangerous situation.
Yeah, yeah. It's built out of 2x8s and 4x4s, and I got it all propped up, but it's not going anywhere, but it's something that my wife wants to replace with something nice.
When do you think you'll get to that? Could we grant the variances with the condition that you'll fix this fence?
Yeah, I know, right now, I can't afford it, okay?
It's
I
not-
can't even,
it's not
aff-
value.
I'm not gonna do that.
I
Yeah, it's
can't
not
even
part
afford to
of
go to shop and stuff.
Variance he's looking for.
I mean, you know,
Okay, that's fine.
but it's something that we have in our plans.
I just worry that it's some child will be there and it's gonna fall.
It's sturdy, believe me, it's not going anywhere, but it looks lousy.
Well, if you're a CB, you probably have the wherewithal to
Yeah,
make sure it's structural.
yeah, I got cables all over the place.
There you go. John, any questions?
No questions.
All right, anybody in the public have any comments or questions on this application? I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Second by
Second.
Silvio. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, sir. and
Thank
for
you,
your service.
thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, application number 3 for Lionel Rivera for variation of section 15615, seeking an area variance for permission to build a front mudroom addition, portico and steps. Property is located at 13 Hillside Place, Carmel, New York, and it's tax map 44.15-2-15. Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
State your name and address for the record.
My name is Lionel Rivera. I'm located on 13 Hillside Place, Carmel, New York.
I'm Rachel Rivera.
All right. There might be a second microphone there if you're both going to speak. Ben, do we have a second? Okay.
I'll do it.
Yeah, don't worry about
You
it.
do all the speaking,
Yeah.
all right. Raise your right hands. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
God bless you. Bring us through your situation. A young family, I thought I saw some emails come through.
Absolutely.
State the case, and
Yeah, so, we're looking to build an 8x8 mudroom addition, and the portico and the steps leading into the mudroom addition are 2 feet over the setback. We're expecting our 4th child, so we can definitely use the space.
congratulations.
Thank you.
So there's no property you can buy, obviously it's in the front, and you're going to hit the road, so it's nothing
Correct.
you can buy to bring it into conformance.
Correct.
I see some letters that we got in support from your neighbors.
Thank you.
So that always helps the case here. I mean, I don't see, it's not a very big variance that you're looking for, so I don't see any major problems with this. Actually, it's nice that you gave us some drawings. Thanks, Vin. That shows the elevations and all that, so
Yes.
we appreciate that. John, any questions or comments?
It looks good.
Thank you.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
No questions, thank you.
All right, any input from the public on this application? I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? All right, good luck,
Thank you.
guys.
Good luck. Good.
All right, application number 4, Philip Lepore, for a variation of section 156-15, seeking an area variance for permission to construct a shed. Property is located at 28 Cross Hill Road, Mahopac, New York, tax map 74.42-1-69. Good evening. You are?
How are you?
State your name and address for the record.
Philip Lepore, 28 Cross Hill Road.
All right, raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, so I understand this was built without a permit or,
It was started
Started.
and never completed, so I'm
Okay.
looking to complete it.
okay. I was out there the other day. It looks, unfortunately, every property in Secor is tight, but it looks pretty large and overbearing on the neighbor's property. Is there anything you could do to bring this thing closer or minimize the size? It's under construction, so I'm thinking, and I saw it was on blocks, so it's not like it's on a foundation, a stone foundation.
Right.
What can we do to bring this thing back and minimize the size of it?
I don't know if I can bring it back any closer to the house, but I can make it smaller.
Okay, so what
I
can you
thought-
do to,
I thought that there was a minimum of 10 by 15, I thought it was, that I would be able to build.
10 by 15 just goes to the lower setback.
Right.
Once you go over 10 by 15, you go to the higher setback.
Right.
But you
But my
still need the permits.
But my shed's not 10 by 15, it's 10 by 12.
Correct. In
so
Secor, it doesn't
I
affect
fell
it.
on- Still under the,
okay, well, we got some letters in opposition from a lot of neighbors, and I think the neighbor next door. So, we try to mediate these things and try to work with everybody. So can we cut the size down? Can we move this thing over? It's sitting on blocks. It's not like it's on a fixed foundation. So
I
how
could move it-
how
I
much
could
more
move
can
it-
you move it?
I could move it more centered towards the property, maybe a little bit closer to the house to give me a little bit more room, and I can downsize it,
Can
I
you re-
guess, to an 8 by 10, or, I don't know. I do need a pretty large shed. I have a lot of equipment that I'd like to store in it, so.
But you started building this a few years ago, and you haven't used it since. Do you really need it? It's been 2 years since you started it.
I do need it.
For what?
I have a lot of stuff in storage that's waiting to go in there, so,
Like what?
snowmobiles, motorcycles, tools, equipment.
I think part of the problem is the height. It's so overbearing over everyone else's. It almost, when I first saw the pictures, I thought it was a two-story. Is there some way you can bring it down below the fencing line?
Sure.
I see there's a 6-foot fence. If people can't see it behind the 6-foot fence, I don't think it would be as intrusive.
I don't think I could lower it to 6 feet, but it's 10 feet tall.
Yeah, it's-
I could lower it to 8 feet. I mean, would that be sufficient?
Do you have any neighbors that are in favor of this?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any neighbors that are in favor of this? Do you have any letters or anything to sway us?
I didn't have anyone come to me and tell me that they were against it.
Well, we do.
We did.
We did. Yeah,
So-
we have a lot of people.
It sounds
lot
like
of
you might have
opposition.
neighbors here that are ready to speak on this, which we'll get to, but,
Okay.
look, we try to negotiate and help things out, help out the neighbors, help you out, try to meet in the middle somewhere. So, I mean, I'd like to see this thing cut down at least 30, 40% from what it is now, and like Rose had mentioned, the height. I mean, unfortunately, your property's a lot higher than a lot of the other neighbors, so the height of this thing is really overbearing on everybody.
Right.
Not knowing what the finishes are gonna be. What are the finishes on this thing? You gonna put like clapboard siding, like to match the house, or?
Probably gonna go with texture 111, I think it is.
Yeah, okay, so, I mean,
Painted,
from an
Asphalt
aesthetic
shingle.
point of view, maybe it's not as desirable if it was as high as it is right now, so. I don't know, I'm throwing out some numbers out there. Right now, this thing is, what's the size of it? It's
10 by 12.
10 by 12.
So if we minimize, what's the width? The width is 10 feet, so if you shorten this thing by like 10 by 8, it'll get further away from that immediate neighbor that you're overbearing right now.
Okay.
And then, if we can minimize the height, Right now, what's the height of the studs?
The peak is 10 feet. To the peak, it's a,
You sure about that? Because it seemed like if they were 8-foot
It appear-
studs.
It does appear tall. I don't know. Looking at the picture, it looks,
Yeah.
It's above the height of the eave of the house, so.
It looks like at least 8-foot studs now, and then your peak and your ridge is going up higher, so.
It's about 12 feet to the peak from the ground.
I don't think so.
You know, I wanted to mention, and Chairman, if I may, the shed itself, I was just up there. You have a press board floor. It's probably been there for years. The 2x4s, they're already negotiated by UV and water. And I don't know what you used to fasten that, but I don't think, you couldn't really build on that structure, Brent, It's,
I'll
It look-
I'll probably replace the flooring.
but even
I'll
the
have to.
studs, I'm not the inspector, but it looks like it couldn't hold, the T111, you're gonna bang that in with nails. It's been out there for how many years?
A
Unprotected?
year and a half.
A year and a half? It looks like it's been longer, but it's just a look. If you had to, take it apart anyway, maybe you could restructure it and move it over, more in the middle,
Okay.
behind your house, and get it back.
I didn't want to move it too far over because I want to put a patio in the back, so it would encroach on a patio in the backyard, so I thought that corner was ideal.
Do you want the storage or do you want the patio? You gotta make a decision, that's what it's gonna come down to. So you have it right now, you have it stored someplace that's safe, it's dry and everything, but you want a patio. So what do you wanna do? I mean, we're trying to work with you here and I don't hear it. I don't hear that you wanna work with us.
I also say, put yourself in your neighbor's shoes. Look at this picture. You're overbearing their property. Your property as it's structured or built is overbearing their property as it is now. You put this thing in the corner, 2 feet away from their property. It's
Right.
not fair. If that was your house, would you be happy about this?
Well, with it finished and painted and looking presentable, I wouldn't see what the problem would be.
Still,
but-
it's encumbering someone else's enjoyment and view, and, you know what I mean? So, what do we
Okay,
gotta do
I'll-
to make this thing smaller and bring this thing over?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's throw some numbers out here. I had mentioned, to make it easier for you to build,
I'd like to make it as large as I possibly can with the amount of equipment and things I'd like to store in it, but I'll work with you. Whatever numbers you throw at me is what I'll make it.
I don't know, I don't know what the right number is here. I mean, I'll take some suggestions from the board
They
members.
also, we're gonna hear from some people, I imagine, but if you were able to plant some green evergreens there, at a mature height, would that be something you could do?
I was thinking about putting a fence in the back.
A fence?
A 6-foot fence.
Do you
I
own
think
the,
to the side is more,
do you own the fence that exists now on that sideline?
Do I own the fence?
Yes.
No,
Is that-
that's my neighbor's.
Okay, because that's in tremendous disrepair as well.
Yeah, no, I don't own any of those fences that surround my property.
Okay.
All right, so it's 8 feet wide by 12 feet long, correct? With the peak going like this. You made this thing 8 feet by 8 feet. You take back, so it's easier for you to build and reconstruct. You take back the 4 feet that it is now, and then lower this thing by 6-foot studs, Mike, will still give you headroom to get in, and then you leave a ridge roof, so.
yeah, if it's that small, you can only, a 1-foot roof is fine.
8-foot center, you're saying, in other words?
Not
Center head
center.
height?
Where it is now, where it starts and it goes to your neighbor's property is 8 by 12, right? You take this thing back 4 feet, so it's 8 by 8, and then you drop it by, right now, it looks like to me from the pictures, I didn't have a tape measure when I was out there, but it looks like 8-foot studs and the ridge is going up.
Right.
So you're really overbearing your neighbors.
Right.
And I think John's got a good point. You put some evergreens on that side, 3, 4 evergreens to, full height
Mature.
evergreens, mature, to protect your neighbors from that side would be,
I can do that.
You gotta pull that pod that's out on the road back onto your property too, though. You have a big right-of-way there, make sure it's on your property.
Right.
Should have been all winter, to be honest with you. Lucky the plow, we didn't have a bad winter, so it wasn't a bad issue, but get it off of the right-of-way.
Okay.
All right, so any other comments from the board members? Does everybody
No, I mean,
think
I'm-
those
I'm
numbers are
leaning
good, or do you want to get rid of this thing altogether? I mean, speak up.
I'm okay with the 8x8 provided that it's surrounded by greeneries to ease the burden of the neighbors. But let's hear from the neighbors and see.
And pulled away from the property line.
And of course,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
I just want to make sure that,
Yeah.
And the height lowered.
not to
Get
go this
numbers-
way,
can
to
I get
actually pull
numbers
off
from
the
you
property.
that you'll give me where I should
Yeah, well,
ideally.
Yeah, it's gonna all be, it's all gonna be in the
Properties.
minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
all right, so all
Whenever it comes out.
board members are
Okay.
are good. Any other comments? Rose?
Another thing I noticed that you have a lot of wires hanging out. Are you putting in light fixtures, or is those wires, have they been coming out of the house for a long time?
The house is still under construction. And actually, he was already told, I think Dennis sent you a letter already, you can't occupy it without the CO, and that's already been spoken to with Mr. Laporte. I don't know if he got it yet, but that was definitely
I'm
sent out
working on
already.
it.
Are you living there currently
I am,
without a CO?
I am,
You gotta finish that up.
I will.
I-
It's been a money issue, but I'm working on it.
So.
It looks like the
Well,
shed is
hold on,
not
hold
as
on, hold on,
important
hold
in
on.
your life as it
That's-
should be,
sounds
really.
like.
How long has that pod been there, and how long do you plan on having it be there?
I'd like to get rid of it in a couple of months, as soon as I finish this project,
How long's it been there?
a year and a half.
I'm a little more concerned now that he says he's having a money issue with the house and not having the CO. I almost don't want to even bother with the shed until the house is resolved, and then we can revisit this.
I don't think we have any control over that, right, Mike? But, I mean,
Because to me, it was.
We're only
it's-
here to hear
yeah,
about the shed.
I guess so.
Go on the shed.
Yeah, Greg's on there, he could tell us still.
That's
but,
what-
It's,
We could put
Oh, is
that
Greg
maybe
on?
in
Yeah.
Yeah, he's there.
contingency.
he's the big G on the screen.
I don't know if he's trying to talk.
can you hear us?
Greg, if you're trying to talk, you would unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize he was on the screen. We have our town council is on via Zoom here.
You text him?
That I will. But, look, I mean, I'm sorry for your troubles or your woes or whatever, but it is a good point. You really you should get your house done first and deal with this secondary, but, the only part that's in front of us right now is your shed, so.
But the reason why I'm going there is because the framing's already up, so there may not be any addressing, so that's gonna stay, and the neighbors are still gonna be.
But the
happy.
framing's gonna have to come down if we even change the numbers.
That's true.
Right.
I mean, you could show good faith to your neighbors and pull it down and deal with your house, and then when you want a shed and you have an idea for a shed, come back to us, and then we'll figure it all out.
It's not built, it's not 100%, you're maybe 30-40% there. You still have siding and roofing and trim to do if you're gonna build a shed that's completely nice, so.
The alternative is
maybe
we're
that's
just
a good
gonna vote
point.
it down, and you're gonna have to pull it down anyhow.
Right.
I have stuff that's inside my house that I need to get out of it to be able to finish what's going on inside. I have power equipment, lawn equipment that I'm storing in the house right now. So that was a reason for me also finishing the shed.
All right, let's hear what the neighbors have to say, and.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, I'll look for input from from the public on this application. Ma'am? Just when you're done on the podium, just write your name and address on the form there, please. Or now.
Or do it now.
Okay, good evening, Chairman, board members.
Name,
zoning
State
board
your name and
inspector.
address for the record, please.
Lisa Fitzsimmons, 42 Cross Hill Road, Mahopac.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
So I've been a resident at 42 Cross Hill Road since August 2003, so I'm coming up on 20 years. During 17 years of that time, I have had, in the 28 property, my neighbors were squirrels, raccoons, and feral cats. Also during that time, the owner of the property was not taking care of the property, which is not very neighborly when you have you know, trees and sprigs and holes in a house, a tree fell on it, there was broken, it was a bad eyesore, and it was attracting vermin. He would come from time to time, I guess a violation would come up or whatever, and he would mow everything down, and it would just repeat for 17 years. Just to address Mrs. Fabiano, I did hear you ask a question about the fencing that is in disrepair. That fencing is easily, I could take down. The only reason why I had it up is because I couldn't stand seeing what was behind on the other side, and even in the front. So the board has recognized that you've received a letter from a petition from 6 neighbors, and also a letter from a realtor supporting what the situation is with the structure behind. That structure was erected in 2020, so we're coming up on 3 years. And I have a photo of it when it had a blue tarp on it. So it's not a year and a half, so it's almost 3 years. I don't work in construction. I don't know what the integrity of the structure is. It's really not my concern, actually, about the integrity of it. I'm not afraid it's going to do anything, like fall over. It's not going to probably hurt anything, I don't think. But that's why the fence is there, and I have no problem replacing those things. It's like, you know, Home Depot special, in and out, nobody gets hurt, right? The one thing that no one has mentioned yet is that our property is divided by a retaining wall. So you can, and it's a rock wall that is not made of cement. So it's just rocks, stuff.
Drywall.
Right? And his property is significantly higher than mine. So it gives the appearance that the structure is much higher than from where I am, which is true. But then the picture shows that it's also half the size of his house. But so just to say, even if he lowered the height, I'm still gonna see it, which is okay for me. I want my neighbor to have a storage area. I want my neighbor to be successful in repairing. I mean, I've lived there 17 years. It was awful. And I understand my neighbor's back, and he's trying to do the best that he can. So I recognize that. But he's had 3 years to do the best that you can. And to your point, you know, you shouldn't be living in the house if you don't have a CO and there's wires hanging out. Now, I don't know. I'm not an electrician. I don't know if these things are connected to a box. I don't know if they're hot and they could start a fire. I have no idea about what goes on with that, but I mean, as you bring it up, it like raises a concern. Why are you worried about the shed when you've got to get your house fixed up, and you've got to, and this container, this giant container that is catty corner and almost on the street, is also been there for the 3 years. So it's not just a year and a half, it's 3 years. I don't know what the rules are, and I want everyone to be able to be happy and successful, but it's just an ongoing time that's being taken up. And, you know, something else to think about is that because, you know, the structure, going back to the shed variance, already being 2 feet off my property, even if he moves it over, I'm worried about planting large trees that are gonna grow roots, and they're gonna, you know, impinge on a rock wall made of nothing to really like keep it together, but itself, it's gonna knock that over, and which will, I'm not really worried about the fence, but it's gonna like spill over onto the patio. I mean, it's a great idea. Maybe it can work. I want it to work. I want it to be able to work for the both of us. But I'm not really sure how that is. Perhaps, I don't know how much, I've never been on the back of his property, so I don't know how much is on the other side. I mean, I'm totally fine with him to build this structure, but really if he can put it behind his house, that would be, I think, better. If you put it behind your house, maybe you don't even have to drop the height, because then you can put the trees. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just not fair to encroach just because you want to maximize your space for a patio or whatever. It sounds like he really needs a larger structure if he does in fact have large machinery that he wants to put in these sheds. So he will need that space, but not at the compromise of me or anyone else.
We hear you.
Can I move the shed to the other side?
Just let me let's let everyone be heard, and then I'll give you a chance to come back up.
So, you know, this all being said and listening to everybody's points, it sounds like we're gonna come to an agreement, hopefully. My main concern is I would really like a timeline, because the willy-nilly of 3 months, it's gonna take some time, I'm gonna do the best I can.
We can condition it to a certain
So I
timeline.
would appreciate,
That's fair. Of
you
course.
know, to have that done, and I'm willing to compromise with, you know, to keep the shed, keep the height, just put it behind your house at least, and then there
Okay.
will be space.
And you're the neighbor on the immediate right-hand
42
side,
Cross
so
Hill
you're
Road,
affected
yeah.
most
mhm.
directly.
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah.
that's really like the main concern, and of course, I don't know if
Okay.
somebody goes out to check to see if the wires that are hanging out of the house are not.
There'll be condition of a CO if it's under construction right now, but he can't get a CO until that's done by the underwriters as well. They have to inspect it, right?
Correct.
Underwriters in Putnam.
If he moves it to the other side, or he moves it to the middle of his property, he will then be affecting people on either side, right?
I don't know.
Is there I can't remember if there was a house behind him.
There
I know
is-
there's a
There
house
is.
to the side.
There's a house on every
There's a
side.
house
on every
behind
side.
him, which is considered Circle Road, number 10 Circle Road. He's one of the
on this.
petitioners on the
He's
objection.
opposed it too.
So he's opposed too.
Yes.
I don't know, I can't really speak to his position.
That's
I
It's
can
like your
speak to my
circle
position.
with all the neighbors in opposition.
There is a house
Cross Hill Road.
to the opposite side, the small blue house. That person is not on the petition, not for any reason, but I don't know if he wanted to ask them. But, I mean, the idea is that if, once, you know, it creates more crowding in our already crowded community. I mean, I will probably be looking to sell my house in the next couple of years. My kids are going off to college, and, you know, and so for me, it's a highlighted.
You still want to enjoy your time there.
I want to
so
enjoy
we
my
get
time there, but I also, when it's time to sell, it's like, oh, wait, what's this? Like, you know what I mean? I don't want to
It'll
have.
minimize your property
I
value.
just, yeah, it's a hard house, it's a hard area to sell sometimes for what you think you, right? So trying to, and we want to make it like a nicer place. Like, I want Mr. Lepore to be moved in and happy, and he does gardening. He's you know, he's trying to do better, but we also have been dealing with this for 3 years.
Okay.
So
We hear you.
that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you for your
Did
comments.
Mr.
We appreciate
Lepore own this house 17 years ago?
As far as I know, since I moved in 2003, from what I'm told, he was the owner the whole time. I don't have,
it. All right, well, let's
No, that's a
not-
question for him.
Yeah.
That's not for
All right, anybody else wish to be heard on this application? Ma'am? Thank you for your time.
thanks.
Appreciate it.
This is my pen.
Hi, my
Good
name is
evening.
Carol Chach. I live on 22 Circle Road. I am in
Why
back.
don't you raise your right
Oh, I'm
hand?
sorry.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you.
I've been living in my home since 1985. I'll
Just
sign it.
turn the mic to your.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've lived in the house since 1985. That house has been under construction since we've been there. The wires have been hanging out for I don't know how long. I don't want you guys to issue a variance for this shed until that house is finished and gotten a CO. I
Just
worry.
address us, please.
I worry that he or somebody else is gonna get hurt because there is no CO and there's wires hanging out. My husband's an electrician, he notices it all the time. It's not right. You can cause, God forbid there's a fire. The amount of garbage that's in the neighbor's yard next to him, which they don't clean up, and between the people right behind him that are trying, they just bought the house 2 years ago, they're trying to clean it up. There's a fire, that's gonna go up like that, and I just feel that the house should have a CO before we give them a variance for the shed, and the shed is way too big.
We appreciate your concerns, but that's not, the only issue in front of us tonight is this shed, unfortunately.
I understand
The only
that.
way to control that is with the building department.
I understand
And Mike is
that.
aware of it, so.
But that shed is way too big for that piece of property, way too big. We can see it from our yard, the top of the shed,
And where are you? You're behind?
diagonally behind.
Okay.
And it's an eyesore, and there's garbage all over the place. Like I said, and like she said, I don't want anybody to be put out. I want them, we all keep our property, well, except for a couple of us, we keep our property nice, and I don't want my value to go down, and I do my permits, and I do what I have to do to get it done, and I think everybody else should, so.
In fairness, it sounds like a work in progress, so let's give him some due.
It's been a work in progress since I've been there in 1985.
Okay. Anybody else wish to be heard on this application in the public? All right, Mr. Lepore, you want to come up and address any of the comments from the public?
Well, I just want to state that I have stuff in the container that's in the front yard, and I have stuff in another storage container, furniture and other stuff that if I had moved into my house, I wouldn't
Once
be
you
able.
get a CO, you'll mitigate some of those items. You'll get rid of the container, you'll fill the shed, whatever we decide, if we decide.
Right.
With some items and complete your house.
Bringing that up, the reason why I do is that I do need the shed to be able to move
Okay.
some of the stuff out of storage. It's
We
costing me a
understand
lot
that.
of money keeping these things in storage.
Okay,
The container in my front yard is costing me X amount of dollars, and the other storage facility is costing me a lot of money too, so.
Okay, so if we approve some semblance of this shed, what's a fair timeline? 5 months?
I'll have it done in a month.
In a month? So you'll commit to that on record here tonight?
Absolutely.
The shed will be done in a month.
Yes.
Not the
And I'll
house.
work on the house, hope, I'll have it done as quickly as I can.
How long have you owned this house?
35 years?
And you've always lived in this house?
No, never lived in it.
You never lived in it?
I was living in Bedford, and I ended up taking care of my mother. She recently passed away 3 years ago, and stayed there another year, fixed up the house, sold it, and then had nowhere else to go, so that's why I moved into this in the condition it is in. Those wires that are hanging out, all of those lines are dead for right now. They're all shut off at the box. There's no chance of anything starting on fire or anything like that. It's been inspected by.
Are they wired into the box?
I'm sorry?
Are they wired into the box?
They are.
Okay, and you have
The house is rough wired right now.
You have the breakers locked off? Breakers live? Could they be live? They're locked off?
They could be if they were turned on.
Okay, but you have them locked off?
I'm the only one that's living in the
Okay.
house, so.
All right, I think, any other questions from the board members?
Nothing, thank you.
I'm just curious, in order maybe to, assist your neighbors, to wrap that in, on the outside, where you don't see that, can you do that, with evergreens?
I could.
Yeah, John, it's a condition we can mandate here.
Okay,
so-
because it's, it's not a
To
small
be
job.
considered. So where I see this thing going is we minimize the size, the length, we minimize the height, and we add evergreens. And then you commit to doing this within a month, at least building the shed, and give you a little more time because it's not truly plantings, actually, it is planting season.
Yes.
It is planting season.
It's good time.
So, to plant some evergreens if we decide to do that, but they have to be decent size. I would say at least 6 feet, so they'll grow a little taller.
Okay.
And I'm thinking probably 3 to 4 along that short side at least.
And back and the other
Can
side.
I move the shed to the other side of the property? So that I could get it away from overhanging.
You would move it
property, so
towards
she doesn't
your,
have to see it.
behind your house.
We'd have to
If you're gonna
renotice
do,
that.
if you're gonna do that, we have to redo the
I was gonna
notice.
say, it has to be renoticed.
What I'm thinking is where the shed begins behind your house, going to your neighbor to the right, you take this thing back 4 feet at least, gives you room to plant those evergreens.
Okay.
And you minimize the height.
Okay.
Does that sound like it's feasible?
But the evergreen's going close to the shed, not close to the wall.
The evergreens are going to be on the
Yeah, how do we condition
side
that?
of the shed as close as possible, away
Correct.
from the wall, which sounds like it's.
Because you don't want the roots to
potential
go
growth.
through and break the
No,
wall.
no,
Right.
no.
I mean, they're going to be shallow roots. They're evergreens. They're not going to grow deep and wild and wide and spreading, so. Okay, I think that's what we do. Any other input?
I think, I love the idea that we try to come to some kind of agreement. I'm just not for it, so I'm not voting for that,
Okay,
so you know.
Close.
okay. So I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
By the way, we're going to vote on this tonight. You can stick around on all cases. or you can go home and watch it on Channel 95 on Verizon, or 22, I forgot the channel.
24 Verizon, 95 on Comcast.
On Comcast. Madsen. Okay, application number 5, Michael Madsen, for variation of 156-15, seeking an area variance for permission to replace existing deck and add a portion. Property is located at 26 Boniello Drive, Mahopac, New York, tax map 85.12-2-13. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Michael Madsen, 26 Boniello Drive.
How are you? State, raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, what's going on here? This thing was,
So I removed an existing deck, and I started, building a new deck, and I did add a portion to it. I did not have a permit. I got stopped in the meantime and was told I needed a variance because I'm close to the property.
okay, so it was, the the decking was existing on this existing framing, or you added to it?
So there was an existing deck where on top of the wall, I did replace all the framing.
Oh, so that piece that's there, that gray decking, that was there?
Yeah, that was all there. So originally it was 8 feet from the property line originally, and I just kind of, at the end of it, I squared it off. It was awkwardly shaped.
Okay, so you went and framed this deck further out without getting a permit?
Further back, yes, correct.
Okay, you didn't know you needed a variance or a permit for this?
I didn't know I needed a variance.
Okay. So in order to get a permit, you gotta get a variance here,
Yes.
so
I'm
obviously.
aware of that now.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah. There's no property you can purchase to bring this into conformance?
No, I've already spoken to my neighbor next to me, who's adjacent to the left of me.
Left side?
And he's perfectly fine with it. He's glad it's happening. The deck that was there was it was unsafe. It was falling apart.
Okay. All right, Julie, any questions?
No questions.
So,
No questions.
No questions, thank you.
No questions.
John?
It's 35 by 40 feet.
Yeah, well, there's also a pre-existing enclosed porch that's still there.
What do you put on?
It'll be when it's done.
You gonna put on Trex, or
Was that,
what kind of decking?
trucks?
Trex. Yeah, be careful, it gets hot.
Oh,
It-
boy.
it-
Yeah,
I mean, what color you pick.
there's a lot of sun back there, too. That's the only
Yeah,
downfall to
you're
the
right.
Trex.
That's the back end there.
That's my house.
All right, any input from the public on this application? Anybody wish to be heard? All right, I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion closed.
Do I have a
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right, application number 6, C. Torres and K. Santana for a variation of section 156-15, seeking an area variance for permission to retain a deck. Property is located at 258 Topham Road, Mahopac, and it's tax map 63.82-1-5. I actually forgot to do this evening, but I usually read these with the variance. It's 15 feet from the south side is what the code requires. What's provided is 4 feet, and a variance is being requested of 11 feet, and 15 feet is allowed on the north side. What's provided is 13 feet, so a variance of 2 feet is being requested. All right, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Carmel Santana, 258 Upland Road, Mahopac, New York.
Okay, raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, bring us through your situation here.
So basically, we purchased the house last year, and the previous owner, he was supposed to get some permit, and we believe that he actually applied for it for the permit, so we went and closed the house with a belief that we were gonna get the permit. So later on, we got the violation notice, and we tried to contact the previous owner, and he never responded, so we never heard from them back. And we contacted the lawyer, and we had some money in escrow, so we got the money just in case something like this came up. So far, like, we didn't know that we needed the variance to keep the deck.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to keep the deck right now. So basically, we don't know what was going on. So I guess we gotta apply for the permit and stuff like
All right,
that.
so it never got picked up on the title search.
It did. However, the bank, one of the requests was for the previous owner to apply for the permit, and he submit the application and stuff like that, so,
So they let you close without that being resolved?
yes, they let us close.
All right, I mean, the deck looks like it's been there for quite some time. It's weathered to a certain degree. How long do you think it was there for?
Like probably 5, 6 years, I just have to refinish and stain it.
And it's not, basically, it's pretty low lying. It's not, high up or encumbering on any neighbors here. There's no property you can buy to bring into compliance?
No, we just recently purchased the house, so.
All right, any issues? You checked with your neighbors? Anybody having a major concern?
Nobody has any concern about it.
You're pretty self-enclosed. You got a fence and a shed on one side, on both sides, so it's pretty, hidden from plain view here, so I don't see any major issues with this. Board members, Julie?
No questions.
Phil?
No questions.
Phil?
No questions, thank you.
John?
Thank
You know where
you.
your shed is right there?
Sorry, what was
You
that?
have a shed back there.
Yes, we do have a shed,
And then next to that's your retaining wall.
yes.
How does that look?
So far, I believe I have to do some work on the retaining wall, but it's still like strong, so, I mean, I'm starting to
Looks
work
like
on
it's
it.
bulging out. You might want to sister it up,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
All right, so,
You get free construction advice over here, too.
I used to do some type of,
yeah. All right, any input from the public on this application? Concerns, questions? All right, I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
thank you, guys.
Good luck. All right, application number 8, Mitchell and Lauren Karp.
7.
Oh, sorry.
Seven.
Two Santanas.
You're right.
In a row.
Seven. Hold
Yo,
on.
Two
Carlos.
Santanas.
Sorry.
Carlos Santana. Sorry, my bad. Application number 7, David and Evelyn Santana. Sorry, cut you short.
thought you were
Variation
gonna
of
see.
section 156-20, seeking their variance for permission to retain existing 52-inch fence in front of it and 6-foot high on sides as well as driveway gates. Property is located at 467 Bullet Hole Road, Mahopac. So a 4-foot fence is, for the front yard is what's allowed, and it's 52 inches across the front of the house and 6 feet along driveway and adjacent to easterly property and 6-foot driveway gate.
Yep.
A variance is being required of 4 inches along front and 2 feet along driveway and easterly property line. So, good evening, folks. State your names and address for the record.
Evelyn and David Santana, 467 Bullet Hole Road, Mahopac, New York.
Raise your right hands. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you
So
God.
help me God, yes.
Okay, what happened? You got noticed by Dennis here? Maris?
Him, yeah. No, Dennis, that's
Dennis
is the
works-
other guy, right,
works for
right,
Mike,
Dennis.
so.
No, it's Dennis.
I was out there the other day. It's very meticulous and very pretty.
Yes.
However, it doesn't fit our code. So how long has it been there, first of all?
Like 3 years, we have a major problem with the rental property in front of us. There's constant, since our property declines, like you saw, because
Yeah.
my camera's got you on action, they're looking around. There's constant, hi,
I
yeah,
should
you are
wave.
being recorded. Their garbage is constantly coming to our property.
And their dog.
And their dog was. That's why we had to put fencing, because Max crosses the street on Bullet Hill Road, which is like Indy 500.
Yeah.
And he kept pooping on our property, and they didn't want to pick it up, and that's why we got cameras.
Oh, wow.
And we also got vandalized, we got egg bombed, which we're not the only people in Mahopac, they've had that happen to their house. We've been here 28 years, and we have a foreclosed property easterly on the opposite side of us, and they're not doing anything with that property. It's an eyesore. I got poison ivy, trying to cut the branches back. We got lots of mice running around because of that, and the reason why we did the fencing in the front, there's only 3 panels you saw on the foreclosed property, the blue house.
Yeah.
Is
On the
because
right-hand side as you're facing the house?
if you're facing the house on the right-hand side, I mean, the poison ivy and all there's like bushes with big thorns on it, keeps coming over our fencing, and we gotta keep cutting it every single year. We hire Mike Blue Wheel, so he can do the other side, because trees were falling down. That's on the opposite side where no one can build there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like everything is overgrowing and being tick infested. Then we get all kinds of animals coming into the property. We have grandkids, and we want to keep ourselves secluded in our little paradise there.
So if you had to cut this down, what would the cost be roughly?
A lot. I mean, to do it again,
Oh, wait, to cut down the,
If you had to bring everything into conformance,
Make it
the
4 feet tall.
52-inch fence to 48 in the front,
Those are-
and then the 6-foot fence up to the front of the house line is what the code typically is.
a lot of boulders there, because these guys were trying to dig in there, and, I mean,
Okay,
the next thing was
what-
going to be get a, what's that machine, a jack?
If you had to bring this into conformance, what would the cost be? Just give me a general
I have
idea.
like no idea.
What was the cost for the fence
He did it with my
completely?
brother, and
yeah, well, we.
Well, between materials and labor, would,
Materials and labor.
That was a lot of money.
Probably close to $6,000.
wow, okay, so that's
So to replace it would be 6 again.
oh my God,
Plus or
yes. Right.
Probably more.
Yeah, it would be more. Removal and replace.
we lost speaking over there.
No, he's gone.
So basically, go ahead, want to talk? Okay, go to the mic.
Now,
Just speak into the microphone,
yeah,
please.
when you were there, you were facing the house. On the left-hand side where the fencing is 6 feet, where we have the gravel, where we put our cars into, the reason why we have that is because we were getting a lot of deer jumping into our property, and we have like trees that are falling, vines that are overgrowing, like she said, and it just looks horrible.
Take it out, yeah, I'll probably.
Right, and nobody takes care of that because I think it's all wetlands.
Oh, you own wetlands there, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the gas lines, right? The gas line go through there?
Oh, the gas line is in the front
Yeah, the front,
of the
crosses
house.
all Bullet Hole Road, the gas line.
kidding.
All right.
But King Pond drains on the property that's next to us.
Got it. Now I
So we hear the babbling brook,
That's actually nice.
and yeah, it is.
All right, I mean, the front fence is, in my mind, is not very,
No,
because it's an open picket,
inches.
it's not solid fence.
Right.
And it's
and
literally 4
Yeah,
inches.
it's 4 inches, so to me, that's not. And then, actually, on your right-hand side, the fence is lower until it goes up to 6 feet, but it's not in line with the house. It's another probably 10, 15 feet, Mike.
Yeah, we did that so if they come out of their driveway, they can see traffic.
So you were,
Yeah, we took that into consideration.
Yeah, did you get the color-coded one?
yeah, I have the
Okay.
color-coded one.
So you can see that little piece there, it looks like it's about 3 panels, so
Yeah.
18 feet.
So to replace those 3 panels is obviously not as costly as the whole fence.
Right.
That's the problem, that's all full of like poison ivy and that, it's like a thick,
You can see the overgrown on the picture, like the trees that are,
it's like a thick,
where's the pictures?
I don't have pictures, I have my tablet, I can show them. I'm pretty sure they have it.
Pictures.
I don't know if they call that thornberry, it's like a thick gray branch, and it has big thorns like rose bushes, and it's,
Those look
listen,
like
they
wild.
haven't
There's
done anything.
there's miniature roses that are on that in the spring? Little tiny white
No,
roses?
no, on their side is just,
That's a foreclosed, they recently bought that, and the man hasn't done nothing with that house. It's, I don't even wanna look over there, it's making my pretty house look like crap. That's why I wanna fence it out. I think he bought this
How
property
long has that house
last
been
year.
unoccupied?
It's not- yeah.
How long is the house on the right-hand side, the foreclosed one?
probably about
2
2
years?
years.
Yeah, so they're not
And he
maintaining the
bought it
property.
last year. A gentleman bought it, but he's not.
Yeah, I had to call him to cut his evergreens down.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, it's nothing to do with, you'd have to remove it or whatever.
6 feet a long driveway. I
It's
mean,
basically two for
50
protection.
52 inches, I mean, that's, you know, that's not an issue there, so that would be like 4-inch
No, like I said.
variance.
Silvio said it's only 4 inches.
4 inches.
And it's an open picket.
And
I'm
the
not-
And it's, yeah, open picket.
I'm not
yeah.
concerned about the
I'm not
front
concerned
fence.
about the
For
front.
safety, you're saying it's, if that was a picket, would that be considered, John? Instead of a solid, going along the
No,
driveway?
it's the height, that's the issue.
Yeah, it's all about the
John.
height.
It's 3 panels that
That's
basically
8,
are-
24 feet we're looking at? 3 panels?
I'm not sure how.
Each panel's 8 feet, Michael?
Roughly.
6 feet? So you're looking at 18 feet.
I mean, it's PVC, right? It's got a cap. You can cut it down if you need to, and it's not gonna be that costly, not 6 grand.
6x6 PVC panels.
You know, it's,
So we're talking about these, wait, these panels?
Yeah,
Yes.
going back
the right-hand
along your
side.
driveway.
You've got them marked out here. They're actually, you have
Yeah,
access.
that's where all the poison ivy and
Yeah,
that
those are the
plant
three
is
that need
at.
to go down. Those are the three that need to either be replaced or cut.
How can we get the neighbor to get rid of the poison ivy?
It's nothing you could do about that.
It's, you'd have to do all the work from your side,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, right, Mike, physically,
Why not?
Or
to drop what's there, you could
Hire
cut the
somebody to
PVC,
do it.
take the top rail down, cut it down, put the top rail back in. You did the work yourself, you said?
Yeah.
So you're pretty handy. It sounds
Yeah, I
like
can
you
cut
could do
I
it.
can-
I mean,
cut it,
The
yeah.
problem is when you cut the PVC, it's PVC, I assume.
Yeah,
right?
everything's PVC.
yeah.
When you cut the PVC, it just,
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's
have to
tough to-
replace it.
Yeah,
What's it look like?
Yeah, you have to replace it,
makes
you
you
can't
want
cut
a
it.
table saw, and it's just not gonna be right.
3 panels.
What it,
Are they in
Well, that's on the
cement?
right-hand side.
Yes.
Yes.
And you got, on the left-hand side, you got the same situation. How many panels are on the left-hand side? That's the one.
That's where the wetland is at, the empty lot. There's no one lives there.
I mean, if we make you do one side, we gotta make you conform on both sides. Oh, here it is. Is that the elevation to the
There's
left
only
side?
one of them though
Yeah.
that they have to move, right?
But that property is wetlands to the next house?
Well, it's
That's
a-
empty,
It's a
that lot.
drainage from the lake.
From King Pond across the street.
Oh, so it's an easement.
No.
What's that, an easement there, Mike, that allows for wetlands?
No?
No, it's just a back, it's been empty. We've been there 28 years and no one builds there. It's just like a lot of woods and you can hear, a swamp. Yes, a swamp.
yeah, I
it's
don't
wetlands, it's
think,
not
it's owned by
buildable.
somebody,
I'm not
but I
worried
don't
about
know
that
if it's the
side. I'm
house
worried
next
about
door.
the right-hand
Yeah,
side.
I agree.
So, if anything, we're probably gonna make you guys drop this thing on the right side. It's what I'm thinking. I don't know about the rest of the board members, but,
I'm actually okay.
board members have any other comments or questions?
I'm thinking if this is in foreclosure, it's gonna sell soon.
No, it sold already last February.
A year
As a
ago?
short sale, yeah, but the guy, my husband keeps calling him and telling him, when is he gonna come and start? First of all, the grass
the
was up to
grass.
here, to our hips.
Oh.
Well, that you
And
can call
he-
us on.
Huh?
If the grass is tall, call us. But we
Zombie
can't make them
house.
spray poison ivy.
The zombie house, that's what it's
Okay.
The zombie house.
You put that in your notes.
There's a
It
zombie
is
law.
a zombie
You
house.
wrote
It's
that.
disgusting. Yeah.
No, but that's what it's called.
See,
It's
zombie
it's an ordinance.
It is a zombie house.
I get it. That's
Yeah,
what it
that's
is.
what, that's the term for it. Zombie house is a
It's a
dead
zombie house.
foreclosed
That's why I
house.
put those 3 panels, because I didn't wanna see it.
The problem is eventually somebody's gonna clean it out and then you have this
What's your tax?
forever fence.
Yeah, it's not fair to them.
So, we're willing to give you part of the variance, it looks like, but we need those 3 panels to be replaced.
That's fair.
Or drop.
That's fair?
Yeah.
Cut in place, yeah.
I can live with
All right,
that.
anybody down here, comments, questions?
I'm okay with that.
Replace with what, if you don't mind me asking?
Lower.
To conform, 4 feet.
And they could go, obviously, they can go solid if they conform, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the right-hand side, all right? Any input or questions from the public on this application? I'll look for a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
Okay.
have a question. So the only thing we have to fix is just those 3 panels and that's it?
On the right-hand
On the
side.
right-hand
Well,
side.
we'll vote for it later.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
That's
I'm
what it looks
staying.
like. That's
We're
what-
thinking, we're thinking that's where it's going.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I'm trying to look up and see who owns next door.
Now, number 8, Mitchell and Lauren Karpf, variation of section 156-20, seeking an area variance for permission to retain a 6-foot fence in the front yard. Property is located at 19 Woodland Road, Mahopac. It's tax map 75.7-1-18.2. The code requires or allows a 4-foot fence in the front yard. What's provided or existing is a 6-foot fence and a variance being sought of 2 feet. Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
Sorry I miscued you on
Not at all.
the previous one. State your names and address for the record.
I'm Mitchell Karp, this is Lauren Karp, we're at 19 Woodland Road in Mahopac.
Raise your right hands. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
By the way, that's only meant for anyone in the public who wants to come up. We already know. You're good.
Because
We already know who's
your
coming.
information we have in front of us.
But we appreciate that.
We do.
All right, bring us through your situation. The fence has been there for how long?
The current fence has been there for just over 2 years. When we purchased the home in September of 2001, we had a fence already existing that was the same height, same length, same
That's right,
imprint.
I read that. So you replaced what was there?
We replaced a alternate board wooden fence that had run down over time with a new
Okay.
fence.
And you didn't know that you needed a variance or building permit or anything to?
Frankly, it never occurred to us that the house would have been sold to us with that kind of violation if
Right.
that pertained.
So again, it didn't get picked up on a title search or?
And we were just replacing, like you said, same height, same footprint.
Okay, so how long was that, do you know, how long was that fence?
Prior?
Yeah, prior.
We bought the house with fence.
Right.
So-
We only know that it was there from September 2001 when we purchased the house until March of 2021 when,
Actually, there's pictures. I thought I saw
Yes.
pictures.
It was the Ramsey's who
That's the
moved the
earlier
home,
fence.
and
Yeah.
they built the house in
So
'93.
it looks like it's been there for
So somewhere
quite a
between
while.
'93 and when they sold in 2001, they put that fence up.
But definitely 20 years.
oh, no
over
question,
21.
no question
As long as
about
we've
it.
been living there, there was a fence.
Because the house,
That
the
height.
house was there when we purchased it.
Did you hire somebody to put the fence up?
Yeah.
We did, we actually purchased it from a local store and contractors who put it up.
All right, so if the same situation, if we made you drop this thing down to conform, what do you think that cost would be?
Well, I'm not wholly sure. We've gotten estimates that have been in the thousands. We spent about $7,500 on the fence purchase and installation, and we actually still have an issue pending with the homeowners association unrelated to this, but about the fence in general,
Okay.
that we
Yeah,
might
'cause
have
You
to.
have deeds, restricted deeds here.
Yes.
in this neighborhood. I know it well.
Yes, you do.
For access.
Okay.
Now, this is a vinyl, a tongue and groove fence. So are you telling me, because we are not the handy ones putting this in. Can you cut a vinyl fence down 2 feet?
If you're the right person doing it, I think you can.
Well, not us.
Not you, obviously.
We've heard very mixed opinions on that.
I
So,
mean, every fence is made differently, so I don't know, I was there, but I didn't stop up close and take a look at it. So I can't guide you on that one, but,
I mean, that you're talking about possibly replacing a huge amount of fence from scratch.
well, it's not the whole length.
No, I know.
It's up to the front of the house line if we do make this. And how far back does it go? 'Cause
It goes back
Oh, and then it turns,
another 150 feet from the front of the house.
Right, I mean, the fence doesn't start beyond 30 feet from the street.
Right.
And our house is like 80 feet from the street. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of property and the
So
fence,
it is a little different in that it's not starting from the street and going back.
right, and it's
Right,
behind
not
the tree.
not even close, frankly.
Right.
There's a tree built about 30 feet off the street, and the fence starts
It's
behind
the
that.
tree.
is there any other reason why it should remain? Are there any issues with the neighbor on the left-hand side? Is there any unsightly?
Every review we've gotten about the fence from our adjoining neighbors and friends has been very positive. We actually included letters from neighbors on both sides, including the one that the fence
We have
abuts with, who's all in favor of keeping it, likes it, feels it looks good, provides him a service because he's had dogs since we moved in there, and they keep them on property, and so he's all for keeping it as is.
Fences make good neighbors.
They
Yes,
don't
sir.
have a horse anymore, though.
I'm sorry?
They don't have a horse there anymore. They used
Or
to be a
goats
horse.
or
Oh.
pigs or.
It could be a farm.
every
That
other
that
animal.
predates us, but I do believe you. I've heard stories.
Yes, I've seen it.
Horses, goats, pigs.
Right, and
Lions,
because,
tigers, bears,
because our house and the Wagmans home used to be one big farm, there's no like tree line there, so I don't know if why the Rienzis initially put the fence up, but it does help with like the wagging dogs, or just leaves blowing, like, normally all the homes, like, we have trees that kind of like segment every little section. This one would be just one big vast yard, like, because our 2 yards are huge if we had nothing. And it just has worked out over the years for dogs and leaves and such. But we never knew, we bought the house, we never knew that there was an issue with the height.
I mean, it looks like you're a good 30, 40 feet from the street line before the fence
fence?
starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fence
It's over
starts
30.
about 31, 32 feet off the street. Again, that tree that you see right at the end of it is at about 30 feet, and then the fence starts after that.
And then like Mr. Wagman said, it doesn't block him at all, or us, from getting out of the street, visibility on the street.
Yeah. Okay.
What was wrong with the fence when you bought it with the house? What was wrong with that fence?
Nothing. The fence was existing, and we had no idea that the 6-foot height was,
An issue.
you know, any kind of issue, and so we bought it as was. The fence was fine, it's just that it was wooden, and over 18 to 20 years of time, it was weathered and started to fall apart, and it really frankly needed to be replaced. It was an eyesore in the community, and we liked having the fence in general for the reasons my wife and I have mentioned, so we wanted to replace it.
And that was never in front of the board before?
No.
The fence
No,
just went up?
This property has no board appearances.
I mean, the fence was breaking.
What year did you buy the house? It was 93, you said?
No, 2000, the house was built in 93, but we bought it in September of 2001.
Here's the difference.
The fence was breaking down because they were a farm, they must have buried things in the yard. So over the years, the land was sinking and we would have to bring in dirt. So the dirt, I guess, where the fence was, broke down and the fence started collapsing.
Gotcha.
And during COVID, we kind of had a moment, since we were all hunkered down at home, we said, okay, now we'll change the fence. And we picked a fence that was already up in our community and never knew that there would be an issue with it.
At first, just slats were falling from the fence. Eventually,
Of course.
sections were falling from the fence, and it really did need to be replaced.
All right, John, I should mention, you did state this, but we do have 2 letters from neighbors
In support.
in support. Karen Bowden, I don't look for the address.
She's right
Oh,
next to the other
21
side.
Woodland, and your neighbor David Wagman on the other side at, what's the right address?
15 Woodland.
15
And
Woodland,
he's the one who we share that fence with now.
yeah, so I'm sure he's happy about it.
And that goes a long way.
Yeah, it does, so,
It does.
you know, I just want to make sure that's mentioned for the record here, that there's some
Thank you.
letters for support, which, you know, makes all the difference in the world. So, any other comments from the board members? Anybody in the public wish to speak on this application? Good evening, sir. Just write your name and address
You
on
have to write your
the
name.
piece of paper, please.
Good evening.
Name and address for the record.
William Hines, 63 Highland View Road, Mahopac, New York.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you, sir.
I'm here representing the Mahopac Hills Homeowners Association as the president of that association. In April 2021, the association board, we were notified that a fence had been erected on the property in question, which is encompassed within the association boundaries. The association board of directors found that the fence was erected without proper approval by both town and by association, which are guided by covenants and restrictions that are bound to properties within the association. Well, since then, the association has reached out to the property owners to remedy the covenant and restriction violations that the fence imposes, which by chance would also alleviate any town violations. The property owners didn't act to modify their fence into conformance of those guidelines and did not respond to follow-up correspondence. The board then reached out to the town to see if there were in fact any town code violations that the fence created. The variance submitted tonight confirms that. The association and town have a history on the subject matter, and I stood before this board in 1994 addressing the same issue. The zoning board had set past precedent in understanding the relationship between town codes, land covenants and restriction guidelines, and what recourse neighbors have in situations like this. At that time, the ZBA decided all violations should be resolved before any COO or variance is issued. The association was and is very appreciative of that. The Mahopac Hills area is one of Town of Carmel's neighborhood gems. It's beautiful, open, quiet, and we are a very active lake community. It has certain covenants and restrictions, guidelines, as well as town codes that ensure that we have an open and bucolic feel of the neighborhood. So I'm here because we feel that we are, again, in the continuous dilemma of build now and ask forgiveness later. It's unfortunate that this is the case here. There are guidelines and codes that are in place for a reason. The covenants and restrictions of our lands in Mahopac Hills have been in place since 1925. The present owners documented the covenants and restriction guidelines as part of their property deed in 2008. It's understood that certain situations require boundary separation and/or fence for safety or privacy reasons. We understand that. But we don't believe that the covenant and restriction guidelines of the land and/or the town codes are against that. But there is a procedure that all of us need to follow. So these procedures ensure that neighboring property owners have a chance to weigh in and ensure the good of the area. So we have a number of private homeowners who have attended our HOA meetings, and they've raised questions and concerns regarding this variance and its repercussions. In the end, we don't want the association to be the one left holding the bag. So I would like to ask the board to consider the tabling of this variance discussion to a future zoning board meeting so that the town-related questions, association-related questions, and private homeowner questions can be thoroughly researched and investigated before a decision's made. Okay, thank you for that.
So I have a question. The fence was there prior. How did it get there prior?
How did it, I'm sorry.
Before this fence was put
Before
up,
this
there was
fence
another
was put up,
fence
there
there
was
that
another
was 6
fence
feet
That is
tall.
correct.
It's
You know,
non-conforming to the
it's
covenant.
an interesting area because the Mahopac Hills Association, which some of us in the room are familiar with, it started out as a bungalow colony, and there was certain boundaries of that bungalow colony. So then when the realty company and the family sold it and they started selling off plots, they started selling them off saying there should be certain restriction covenants to keep the lands a certain way. So they started that off, and then in 1932, they formed what's called the Mahopac Hills Association Incorporated, which now, it said, if you want to be in this association, you sign on to these covenants and restrictions, and then they added a new one, the 8th one, saying you are now a member of the Mahopac Hills Association, which now you get all the amenities of that association. So the original boundaries, okay, did not encompass certain properties, right? So what happened was over the years, those properties were then voted in, the boundaries were expanded. And you talked about the property, the Wagman House, which was a farm. That was not in the original boundary, but it was brought in. So what happened is now, in researching properties, when we look at, okay, who has restrictions, who has the covenants, and who doesn't, we have to do a deep dive research on that. And we found that there were certain properties that didn't have either some or all of those covenants and restrictions until they signed on to become members of the association. The property and the fence in question, as we look back, those properties now had to be signed on at a later date. We did a mass signing starting in 1994 through 1996 to get the properties signed on. Some properties did not want to take advantage of that, and they didn't. There were properties then afterwards which signed on, which was this property in question was one of the properties that were signed on in 2008. So There are a
So
few
before
things, you
they
see what's
purchased-
happening here.
Before the Carps purchased that property, the property owner that had it before them signed on.
That is
They
incorrect.
did not. You're saying they did not?
No, it wasn't signed on.
So you never had to approach them and say, you need to take that fence down?
Well, we did, because there was somebody who said there was a fence going up, so we approached, and then we did the deep dive, we found that they didn't have the covenants and restrictions on their property. So we really didn't have any recourse for that.
Right.
So when you approached the
But let me just
prison-
finish.
No,
I'll
let
just
me
finish
ask-
the
let me ask
question
the question.
because
No,
you
you
asked me
answered it.
for
You
it.
answered it.
I
Let
can
me
say
answer
that
this.
what
You
they did
answered the
do is
question,
that they
sir. I have a
modified.
follow-up. I have a follow-up.
Okay, go
And I
ahead.
do
All
too,
right.
because my question wasn't really answered.
Right. So when you went to the Carps and you said, you know, your problems that you had with the fence, you said you had an idea to make this, you know, palatable for everyone? What was that idea?
There were a couple of ideas, and actually you mentioned one of them, is to modify their fence. The covenant and restriction that is in question here is, they talk about there are no solid board fences on the property, and also fences have to be at least 50 feet from the street line.
So
Okay?
it's 20 feet.
Those are the two guidelines of all of our area, to keep the area open. That's, and keep, you know, the idea way back when was probably to keep everything in the back properties of these houses. So what we did was we asked them, we said, okay, can you modify your fence? We're looking for spacing. That was one of our things. And, you know, they, you know, we gave that idea to them. You know, the other idea was, you know, the more intense was to, okay, you're going to have to take the fence down.
Okay, thank you.
Sylvia?
All right, you have a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Wait, so I'm still unclear. When the house was put into the condo association, was the fence up or not?
I'm sorry, repeat that question?
Then when the property was now welcomed into the homeowners association, was the fence present or not?
The old fence or the new fence?
The old fence? I
The
don't
old
care about
fence,
the new
yes.
Okay. So already we've agreed to the height of that fence and where it's situated based on the fact that you guys accepted that into your homeowners association, no?
See, that's a hard question to say yes or no
Right.
to. And I'll tell you why. Because, one, we'd have to grandfather that in. It was already there, existing non-conforming in the town's eyes, I guess you would call that. But the other thing is that, you know, what I was trying to explain before is that they, you know, weren't under our covenants and restrictions. But what that previous homeowner did said, okay, we will compromise and we'll put an alternating board fence up. We will not put a solid board fence up. And that's what they did. Okay, so, and that was the existing fence when the present owner moved into the house.
That's in 2008. In 2008.
No, they signed on, the present owners signed on to the covenants and restrictions in 2008.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, I thought you said when they moved in.
2008, that's when there was a fence up that was alternating?
That's correct.
Okay.
That alternating fence was up until
Respectfully,
they took it down.
this matter is in front of the board as what's presented to us as a variance for the fence, as it is.
Correct.
Covenants and the deeds is a whole private topic, Bill, respectfully, that has nothing to do with this board. So right now, what's in front of us solely is just this variance in the town's eyes and what's required for our town ordinance. If it ends up being another situation, that's on your own, respectfully.
Okay, that's why I brought up that 1994 case. When Chairman Spain was here. And we went through this whole thing again. And with all due respect to the board, you know, we have several homeowners associations in this town. And they have their guidelines and their covenants. And you know, as I come to some of these meetings, you know, and I've come in front of this board several times, and I hear a lot of, well, we put it up, now we want you to give us a variance. You know, there are a lot of things in question here as far as, should the town just say to a homeowners association, okay, you know, we're going to go with our town code, and whatever you have to do on a personal basis, homeowners basis, that's fine. Well, you know what? Then we're going to run into these problems occasionally. I'm going to have to come in front of you again and, state our case. But here's a case now where it's not only against our covenants and restrictions, which we are very open for a remedy to, okay? As long as we have the conversation. And this might be the catalyst to continue that conversation with the property owners. But the town has to at least take into consideration that, especially town of Carmel, with our homeowners associations here around the lake, that it puts a strain on us to continue to keep our neighborhoods, solid. I mean, I'm hearing, some of the cases that you just had here tonight, that we're fortunate that we at least have, a procedure here, and we have a homeowners association that can support us here.
So, Bill, we're a quasi-legal board. You're going to say. And, we take guidance from the town. So that would be like a town board issue that really you'd have to.
Right. And we're
present
also
that.
governed under state law of how we can consider cases. And that's why I was pulling that out from John. There's 5 criteria. It's a weighting test for each member. That's what we have to do. That's what state law dictates this board has to do.
So
Regardless
then-
of precedent, I have to abide by the rules that New York State tells me I have to abide by, which is the criteria for an area variance.
Sure, and totally understand that. So, again, my request is then, if this can be tabled for me to go to to the town board, let them know what the situation is, and then they'll give you guidance on what to do on this situation. But I don't think that, like I said, I'm very open to the conversation, so it can be remedied. But, you have to give us as homeowners, homeowners associations, the benefit to have some sort of recourse and not to just push us aside.
John,
I
can
think
you
that's
ask-
really important.
Sorry. Can you ask Greg? I think he's.
Yeah, Greg, can we hear you? Can you speak? We have town council on with us. Greg, are we able to hear you?
I think so. Is he muted? He might have the Ranger game on.
I saw your expressions back there. Can you get him on phone?
Greg, I'm going to call you on your cell.
They put the microphone to the phone. That's high tech. I can look at the Ranger score.
We couldn't hear you on the thing, so I'm going to put you on speaker on my phone, all right?
Okay.
I don't know if this will work or.
Vinny, you able to
Something's
help
on
us
over
with
there.
some technical, yeah.
Because that phone is on. it's-
Tell him to mute that. That's what that is. He's getting the feedback from the Zoom.
Yeah, here's our IT guy.
on the board.
Mute his TV. That's the feedback from Zoom. Okay, now he's good. He's good.
Okay. So, is there a specific question? I've been listening to the presentation by the gentleman on behalf of the HOA. I'm not sure there's a specific question or you want a general kind of response to what's been said.
What he's asking is if the HOA's covenant restrictions would make the zoning board not be able to grant a variance, I believe?
No, he's asking for time to vet the town board to discuss that fact that we have many variances that come in front of this board, that people come and seeking for forgiveness instead of permission. If he has time to make that happen. Am I correct, Bill? I mean,
Yeah, I'd like to see, because you need guidance, and I totally understand.
that's
You
one of-
have your guidance.
But isn't that one of the criteria? That's
Okay.
self-creation.
I can answer that.
Right.
Okay. The first thing is that the covenants and restrictions of the HOAs within the town are private rights of action. They don't have anything to do or any
That's what I thought.
impact necessarily on any decisions that the board makes on issuance of a variance, whether or not the person is coming in for a variance in advance of making the improvement or after having made it. Okay, every property owner who benefits from those CNRs has a private right of action if an individual property owner is violating the CNRs, and that's independent of whatever the zoning code says. Zoning code could permit 10-foot fences, and the CNRs could say you can't have any fences or they can't be higher than 4 feet. And the applicant can get that relief from the zoning codes and the zoning board of appeals and still be in violation of the CNRs, but it's up to the people and the property owners who have the benefit of those CNRs to enforce them. The second thing is we don't go to the town board for guidance. You guys are a quasi-judicial board, you're autonomous. If there's something that they're proposing for code changes, again, that's possible in the context of any zoning change or any the comprehensive plan, but your job is to consider relief from the code. So whatever you put in there, whatever ends up being in the zoning code, chapter 156, the people in front of you are always going to be in there asking you to waive some portion of that. So there's not a process where we go to the town board for guidance on an application. And there's no precedential value of any variance. Every variance application stands on its own, and giving one to one particular applicant doesn't necessarily bind the board to giving it or denying it to the next applicant, even if it's virtually identical in its parameters. So, I mean, there's nothing, the board wants to, hold the decision on this in abeyance. That's certainly, you're right, you have 62 days from the close of the public hearing, but there's no process where you go to the town board for guidance on any application, process, or procedure. All right?
Makes sense.
That's where I was coming down.
Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay, sure.
That's exactly where I was coming down on this.
Okay. So,
Thanks, Greg. You're up.
anybody anybody in the public have input first before I ask you guys to come up? All right, I'm going to give them a chance, Bill, to respond.
Frankly, not sure exactly where to start, but the one thing that popped out of me from several is that there is nothing in the covenants and restrictions around the height of the fence, which is why we're here tonight in front of you. The covenants and restrictions and the violations that we've been told about was, one, the solid versus alternate board fence, and two, the length of the fence from the street. Nowhere in our CNRs does it say we cannot have a 6-foot fence. There's no restriction on how close that could be or how tall it could be. So I'm not sure where he got that.
Okay, we understand that. That's not in our purview tonight. What's in front of us tonight is just the variance.
The
in front of
application
us.
as it stands.
So-
And that's great. We can go into chapter and verse about what's going on with MHA. I don't want to bore you with that time, but the one thing I'd say about a continuance and kind of putting this off, it took us 10 months to put the fence up during the pandemic. From the time they actually got the equipment and the supply chain issues to put people in to install it, to actually put it up. We enjoyed the fence for a week and a half before Mr. Hines came to our front door. He told us that somebody had complained about the fence, and so he had to investigate. We looked into it and ultimately found the email from the person that had brought it up to the board, and nobody had complained. They simply raised a question to the board as to whether they were still observing these specific covenant rules or not. So a lot of the information that you were just given is not wholly true. Some of it is wholly untrue. And I just appreciate it not being considered when determining the variance decision or not.
Again, Mr. Carf, we're going to consider the criteria that the state dictates we consider.
Okay, I appreciate
Any private
that.
covenants between you, the homeowners association, that's your problem.
That's a whole separate issue.
That's not this board's problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. You guys good? Any other questions from the board members?
We talked about before about the cost of you taking the whole thing down. What about just a few sections?
Well, I don't know if I talked about the cost of taking the entire thing down. To be
Yeah, that's
clear, what I tried to communicate was the fence installation in terms of the purchase and the installation cost us $7,500. In addition to that, if we need to repair the fence in terms of the MHA violations that we're still fighting relative to the solid versus alternate board, we've had that estimated at several $1,000s. If we need to lower the fence from 6 feet to 4 feet in certain situations, we've had that estimated at several $1,000s. Unfortunately, the type of fence that it is says that and again, I'm not even wholly sure that the fence can be,
Several $1,000s to lower sections of it?
I was told $2,000 to $3,000 for both potential
I'm
pieces
gonna
of
start a
work.
fencing company tomorrow, wow. That sounds.
It sounded like good money, too. But when you're in for almost 10 grand potentially already, it's not thousands of dollars that you want to be spending anymore, that's
The
for sure.
variance we're concerned about only goes up to your house.
The front line
Well,
of your house.
understood.
Right.
And
But-
we're thinking as a negotiation, what I'm thinking, if I know Phil as well as I do, if we take 3 panels out, almost like with the previous application, it seems like a fair thing, even though it may not line up with the front of the house.
Yeah, but your
I'm
house
not
is
sure.
further back, so.
Right, we're
Fence
80
back
feet
further
off the
back,
street.
Yeah, so you get
And I
50
think
feet.
that's relevant relative to the location and
I'm
all.
just saying, like, the look is now gonna be like 6 feet, and then in the middle of the driveway, it's gonna have to drop to 4.
Well, it'll be
We just
closer to
did that with the
conforming.
other one.
It'll be closer to conforming with.
we didn't do anything
our
with
town
that one,
code.
No, I was saying take away those 3 panels.
Yes.
Just take them away and maybe, because you're further back, your house is further back. If your house was further up towards the road, there might be better compliance here. It's just where your house is.
It still gives you some
You're still
privacy.
30 feet away. Your fence starts 30 feet from the road.
Correct.
The front yard is the whole space between the front of the house and the front property line. So it's yours is very large.
Yeah.
So,
Huge.
Mike, tell me, a house, what's the house from the roadway? How far does it have to be usually? Like, what is the minimum that it could be
40
from the
feet.
road?
Setback of the house?
Yeah,
Yeah,
setback of a
from the
house.
roadway.
It depends on the lot size, but anywhere from 25 to 40.
I was gonna say 25.
Okay,
It's 1.593 acres.
40.
40 from there.
okay.
Well, like Mr. Hines said, our community used to be, I
Right.
mean, the covenant was almost 100 years old, a bungalow colony. So the homes were very tight and small. But because our property and the Wagmans used to be the farm, and they divided it into 2 and then sold off, and our
Right.
house was built by the Rienzis, we have a huge property compared to a lot of the other lots in our neighborhood where the covenant was set because they didn't want people coming up and boxing people in with fences. But our property is so much bigger than the standard that the ruling was made for 100 years ago. I mean, it's not a bungalow
Again,
colony
we're not
anymore.
concerned about that.
We're not, yeah,
No,
we're
I
not-
know.
we don't
We're
care
not.
what the homeowner.
But, I mean, I'm
We're concerned
looking
about you
at,
conforming to our code as best as possible.
And we like
For
to-
relief, we get that.
try to cut the baby in half, and in this case, cut the fence apart off the fence. Just maybe 3 panels.
So you
just-
think you take 3 panels out completely, not even cut them down?
Take 'em out.
So
And
that
then-
cost will be a lot less, because you're just gonna
Just remove it.
demo and remove.
I'm looking at the criteria, and the criteria clearly says, can any other method be used that does not require a variance but still allow for a benefit requested? To me, that one statement right there says, cut it down to 4 feet till you get to the house. That's the way you can not even have a variance.
Or remove it all
Well,
up into the house.
but then you
Or
don't need,
remove it all to the fence,
but Rose, but then you don't need a variance on why you're coming here. That doesn't make
But-
any, that doesn't fly with me, Rose. I'm sorry.
But
I-
that's-
They're seeking relief,
that's
so
the-
we meet,
we meet
middle
that's the
ground, and I think what
criteria.
Phil's proposing is fair. It's less costly than actually cutting it down and alterating the fence, because there's gonna be cost involved, because there's gonna be labor to re-enhance it. So if you remove it completely, it's just removal and carting.
Close to 50 feet away from the roadway.
Yeah.
So that's
And it would
going-
still be a
if
variance.
You take another, what are you saying, 18 feet? You cut
3
another-
panels. 3 panels, approximately 18 feet,
That's
I'm
18
guessing.
feet.
18 feet
18
plus the
feet.
If there's
30
6
brings
feet
you back
panels.
48 feet.
That's,
How far are you from the road? How-
80.
No, the house itself.
The house is 80 feet back from the road.
The house is
I
80
mean, the
feet back,
pictures there.
We go by front
Yeah.
property lines. We go by front property lines.
by the front property.
Oh,
Sorry.
Front
and I-
no, that's okay.
I
You
think
know
it was
that- you know better than me.
60.
I think it was
62.4.
Oh, okay, I apologize, I
So by
apologize.
cutting out
62.4.
those panels, you're at 48 feet versus the 60.
Which then gets you to like a more reasonable
And I
setback.
can live with that,
anyway.
and the
Yeah.
neighbors, I have no problems. We have 2 letters from both sides.
Well, I just
The
wasn't
neighbors
sure
like
if
it
they
as it
wanted to
is.
keep the fence to keep the dogs out.
Well,
You know, if you
It's
don't
3
want the
panels.
dogs coming in, maybe the 4 feet is better
They
than,
go around that.
yeah, because a dog can
Roads
run
go
around
around
it.
it. It's
they can run
irrelevant.
around it now.
It's
Well,
irrelevant.
it's-
Yeah.
That's their
That's
call.
true, you could run it around. yeah.
Can I just ask a
Put it out
quick
there.
final
Something
question,
that
please?
the applicants don't mind considering, and we could put it as part of it, that's fine. If not, if no one's wanted, I understand. No forcing. Can you live with that? Can you live with taking down 3 panels?
1,800 feet.
Well, I'm not sure how we were able to buy the house with the fence.
No,
Yeah.
that's not the issue. Can you take down 3 panels? Can you do that?
We're here now.
We haven't looked into it, we haven't looked into the costs, I assume we could do it.
Okay.
I honestly don't know. But to my wife's point, and I do think it's a fair question, and I understand you're not here to discuss this, but as we already said, there was nothing in our CNRs that said we couldn't have a
I
6-foot
don't
fence.
care about the CNR.
I understand.
It's
So
about the town code.
if that's the case, and we purchase the home as is with a 6-foot fence, how are we possibly to know that that was in violation of anything?
20-something years ago.
Shame on your title company.
And the person who put
That's a
up your
tough
fence.
answer, all respect.
And
I
whoever put your
understand
fence
what
up,
you're
too.
saying, but when you're in for the amount of money and time that, and sweat that we've put in, that's a tough answer for
I
us.
hear you.
And
I'm just being honest.
Once a month, we
I'm
sit
still-
here and we listen to stories like this, and that's just not the way it is. It's nothing, we're not blaming anyone, we're just saying we gotta try to make it right.
Fair enough.
And right to you and right to the town. I'm not concerned about, the homeowners.
Well, and frankly, to your point about the town, one of the steps in the process was that we had to get signatures of 35, 37 different neighbors that our new fence was okay as is. And we got all those signatures and we submitted them to the board before they took a vote and decided they weren't going to approve it anyway. But I don't think it's a neighborhood issue. I think if you polled our neighborhood, a solid 90% would be in favor of it. But I believe because of the issue that we've made with the board, and we know this for a fact, came to your property compliance officer, Dennis Morausek, and asked him to investigate the houses in our neighborhood for violations. And that's really the only reason we're here tonight. If that hadn't happened, none of this would be happening.
Yeah, you may have gotten here anyway. Dennis drives around.
I'm sorry?
I don't believe that either.
Well, Dennis told me, he said our
Well, I mean,
homeowners association did it.
so he just didn't call your number yet. Trust me, Dennis drives around all the time.
He lives in our neighborhood.
He lives around the corner, he lives around the corner from us.
He lives in our homeowners association.
Right, and he's been there for 20 years as we have, so I'm not sure I agree, but I understand what you're saying.
All right, look, the case in front of us is what's in front of us now.
Yes,
Just
sir.
the variance for this fence. So there's some proposals here, and I think we're going to clip this now, and if there's no further input, we'll bring this to a vote as we
Will there be
adjudicate.
an option, or like you're saying, one or
No,
the
it's
other?
either or. It's, you either get the variance or you don't, at this
No, I
point.
understand that, but okay.
If you're gonna agree, look, we're trying to
Look,
work
I'll
with you.
afford you the opportunity to hold this over if you want to think about it, and you can
Or
come
get a
back next
price,
month.
if you wanna go
Right.
out and.
Well, I think, in fairness, what my wife is asking is, when you say the variance is either going to be yes or no, it sounded like there was some middle ground as far as taking down these 3 panels.
but you said you wanted time.
So is that a third option,
Yeah.
or is
So-
it just yes or no?
Like John said, you could table this until next May, and John won't
This
be able
May.
to listen to it, he won't be able to decide.
You mean next month, right?
Next month.
Right, next month.
Yeah, this May.
And then you can go and find out how much it will cost to get 3 panels removed. I would
Altered
suggest,
to be dropped to 4 feet, will conform with our code,
you
our
could do
town
that
code.
too. And when you come back here, I think the board will be willing to accept that, because you're showing that you're trying to bring things into compliance. And we understand, there's only one person that's saying that it shouldn't happen. There's no other letters from anyone else. We have 2 that say they have no problem with it. So we're willing to work and try to come to some compromise. If you want to put it over and try to figure out how much it is, or speak to your fencing company who put it up and say, how did you not know that it shouldn't be 6 feet?
That's a whole nother story.
And maybe they could do it on, their time, and on their dollar. So we could do that. We'll put it over for a month, and we'll come back.
I just didn't know if you were gonna say you have to take all 3 out, or you can
No.
do 4. You do,
If you do 4 feet to the front of the house, you don't need a variance
need
at
a
all, you're
variance
done.
at all.
You're done.
You don't have to.
But in my mind, if there's a cost to alter it,
what you're saying.
that's
Okay.
X, and there's a cost to just remove it, card it at X minus.
Right.
My
Somebody's-
experience in construction my whole life, so those options are there. You want to think about it, mull it over, come back next month with some decisions, or we can vote on this tonight and
But if
roll
you're
the
willing
dice.
Keep it the way it
I
is,
wanna think
6
about
feet
it.
high.
But,
You
if
take
you're
the
willing
last
to
3
compromise with
sections
the
out.
board and take the 3 sections out, you would probably walk away from here with a variance, most likely.
Or if you don't, if you want to keep 4 feet, that's another option.
How far back does that fence go? Because I can't see the back of your property.
200-foot fence.
Goes to the end.
It goes, our property really goes.
You might see a shed in the pictures. If you look down our driveway towards the end of the backyard, the fence ends at around the shed, give or take.
Our property continues back in the woods, though.
Right.
Maybe you need 3 more pieces back there.
Look, there's no rush to remove this or build it. My advice would be take the month and think about these options, and then come back to us next month and take it from there. It just, from my 20-plus years on this board, that's my advice to you.
Okay, I just want to be clear, I'm sorry. And if we don't take that option, then, as you said, it's going to be a yes or no on the variance.
We're
And
gonna
if
vote
there's,
on tonight, and from what I'm thinking,
Look, the variance is not approved, you can still fix it. You could tear down 12 panels, or whatever it is, to get you to the house, or cut it to the house, and that will make it in compliance.
Or propose coming back with the 3, and that's gonna cost you more money, but whatever. Right. I mean, there's many ways we can skin this, but if you want us to vote on it as is, we'll vote on it as is.
Somebody's gonna make a motion,
Yeah,
and that's what's gonna be voted on.
Yeah.
because we weren't thinking about these.
right. Okay, so yes, with your permission, we will accept the stay and come back in May and do some investigation, talk about it then.
so I'll look for a motion to hold this matter over.
Motion to hold over.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving right along.
I hope we have a fence case.
This is the fence.
That's what I'm saying, I think Dennis went on a fence frenzy. Our application number 9, Fabian Panny for a variation of section 15620, seeking a variance for permission to retain a 6-foot fence in front. The property is located at 112 Stillwater Road, Mahopac, New York, tax map 75.17-1-52. The code requires or allows a 4-foot fence in the front yard. What's provided is 6-foot, so a variance of 2 foot is being requested. Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
State your name and address for the record.
Frank Penny. This is Fabian Penny.
You both gonna be speaking?
Yes. And our address is 112 Stillwater Road, Mahopac, New York.
Raise your right hands. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You do, okay. So how long has this fence been here?
For a month.
A month?
Yes, for a month.
And you guys didn't know you needed a variance or a permit?
No, we weren't aware.
Wow, this is a tough night. This is a tough night here.
Did you put this up yourself? Or did you
Yes.
hire somebody? You did
Yes, we
yourself,
did
right?
ourselves,
Yeah,
yes.
I think I remember seeing you.
Okay.
Do you realize that if you had moved it back to where the house starts, that you don't need a variance? Do you
20
understand?
feet.
20 feet?
20 feet is all it is.
Yeah, if you move your fence back to where the house starts, then you don't need a variance.
Could you
can
move it
have
back
6
along the
feet,
house
but it
line?
has to be along the house.
So here's the front of your house. If this fence was back along that line with the house,
You're good?
You just push it back,
Just push it back.
then you don't need a variance. Because right now, it's right on the road.
Huh?
But that doesn't.
It's heavy? Is that what you
it's
said?
built already.
Oh, it's built already, yeah, but it's built incorrectly.
Incorrectly, not into
Right,
code.
It's really on the road.
and that becomes self-created, and that's a problem.
Do me a favor, speak to the microphone. There's another microphone on the podium, if you want to pick up the hand.
Yeah, swear, man.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't swear you guys in. Swear, oh, you did.
Oh, you did.
Oh.
You did.
You did?
Yeah.
She said you did?
I did.
I wasn't throwing you under the bus, believe me.
Thanks, Ross.
Neither one of us remember, because we're the oldest
Now,
in
go ahead,
here.
continue
Oldest in the
speaking.
room.
We did, because it's a lot of traffic in there. Is a big truck is parking in the front. It's a big area, a lot of stores.
Yeah, you have a lot of commercial property across the
trucks,
street. I get
Too
that.
much dust is coming into the property. It's all the time. Drive the big trucks in there.
I can appreciate that, and I'm sorry, but maybe you guys didn't know better, but this really should be back along that line. I think you might be able to do this easy enough, you just have to set new footings. It's basically, you're just taking that same section of fencing and just moving that whole line back. You remove whatever portions on the returns on both sides, but that whole front line can be brought back in line with the front of the house. And
Behind
if
the
you guys
tree.
did the work yourselves, it's less costly. I mean, it's not gonna be as costly as hiring a fence company to do this.
You could reutilize the pieces you have.
Right.
Right.
You're using the same piece.
Too close to the road,
Looks like a movie screen.
Yeah.
yeah, too close to the road.
Yeah, and then if you were coming out, you can't see the traffic.
Well, that's true,
Yeah, it's
too.
actually
You know,
dangerous
it's
for
very
yourself.
dangerous.
Yeah,
And
You
that is
have
a
vision
high-speed road.
loss.
it is,
Can't
that's a
see anything.
speedway.
That would fit perfect back there. What
It
is
really
this,
would.
all grass?
If you put it
Yeah,
back
it's
to
all
the
grass.
house line, that would just be great.
There's no utilities out here, no septic?
No.
No. it would be
Mike,
nice
if
to
it's,
say.
if the variance is not granted, how much time do they have to bring it into conformance?
They have to do it immediately. They have to
That's
get it going.
immediate.
Yes.
Alternately, you can cut this down to 4 feet and you'd comply with code, but I think for the reasons why you stated, you want this height fence to protect from noise barrier and traffic.
Move it
But
back.
if you brought it back, you could keep it at 6 feet as long as it's in line or
What-
behind somewhat the front of the house.
20 feet from the street, right?
No, right to the house.
It's gotta be level with the house.
Oh, for the corner of the
front of the
house.
Yeah,
house.
just
Yeah.
put it in front of the house, you're good.
Oh, okay.
Conmigo, por favor. Here's your front of the house, right?
Here's a picture if you want to show that too.
Can I borrow your pen?
Sure.
So if you took this fence, moved everything back in line with the front of the house, you
You're
can
good.
still get your protection and you're conforming to our code. Any fence that's in front of the front line of your structure or the house has to be 4 feet. You have it at 6 feet. The fact that it's 6 feet, you can either cut this down to 4 feet and leave it where it is, or you, if you want the privacy and, you know, the noise barrier, and you want to keep it at 6 feet, you can move this whole section back here, back to here, in line with the front of the house. You're going to lose some yard, it's going to break it up, but you have to weigh your options. What's more important to you, getting your privacy and your quietness, or, so.
So
There's some
what I
options
would
for you.
suggest you do
Grab your microphone.
is hold this over for a month and in 30 days get it done.
Yeah,
Because if we deny
Yeah.
the variance, you're going to have to do it right away.
right, that gives you time.
This will buy you some time.
How much time you
So
usually
come back next month.
You can give up to
Decide
62
if you wanna
days.
shut it, or you want to pull it back.
He has other options too, if he wanted to, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Cut it down.
Cut it down to 4 feet.
Say if you had a rock wall out there, couldn't he put a fence on top of the rock wall?
Total height 4 feet.
4 feet for the
Total,
fence.
total height.
Total height.
Total
So
height.
rock wall, then fence.
No, the
4
rock
feet
wall
from grade.
counts as it,
So if you had a rock wall,
That
it
would
still counted,
Yep.
counts.
yep. Oh, we've
We've
been
had
there.
cases where people build the
Berm it up.
berm and berm it up and say, hey, I got a 4-foot fence. No, it's from your average grade of,
We've been
Jason
gamed, before you got here, I think, we've been gamed a couple of
Do you want
times
to
on
think
that.
about it? Or you-
We're gonna put 6 feet.
you're going to move it back?
You're going to move it back.
To the house?
All right, so we're going to put this over then till next month.
Okay.
All right?
So he doesn't
no,
need
we
a
can
variance
deny
then?
this and.
No, because if we
Deny it.
deny
But
it,
he's
then
got to do it like right
Why don't you
away.
dismiss it without prejudice?
Dismiss without prejudice.
Okay.
Why deny it? It doesn't.
Oh, dismiss it without prejudice.
Is that what you want? You were going to move it back?
We'll move it back?
All right, so forget about it.
No hold. We'll
All right,
dismiss without
thank you.
I'm sorry, but, you know, just do your research before you do a project,
Call
anything,
me.
a
You
shed.
guys have my number.
An addition, whatever. Call the town, the building department. Mike, anybody there can guide you, okay?
All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
I'll look for a motion to close.
It was-
Oh, I'm sorry, input from the public? I'm sorry.
Oh, my goodness.
We got somebody talking about it.
State your name and address for the record.
Robert Bowman, 96 Stillwater Road.
And raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, before you leave, just, yeah, do it now.
Or do it now, or whatever.
Because I'll forget. Thanks, Silvio.
And of course, the pen doesn't work.
You need a pen?
Town pens. I'm already going to the next one.
There's another pen up there, looks like a good one. That one's that one,
Well, I'm not sure I have anything else to add to this, except,
Good night's good.
yeah, well,
Good night would be great.
I do have some concerns. The applicant has a commercial business, and I remember when he first moved into the property, it was 11 o'clock at night. Traffic was blocked because he was backing a truck with a trailer into his driveway. 11 o'clock at night. So Mr. Carnaza has already been to the property concerning parked commercial vehicles and equipment in the yard.
What about the fence?
Well, the fact that a portion of the current fence is actually a gate leads me to believe that there may be traffic going in and out of that.
I don't care about traffic, I care about the fence.
Okay.
So the
That's
fence will
pretty
be
much
taken
is all
care
in
of.
front of us right
Okay,
now.
well, yeah,
And-
it's already,
and then we're- and then
so
we're
I don't,
putting it back.
I really don't have nothing else to
Other than
to
saying
add to
good
that,
night. All right.
except, yeah.
He's not even getting a variance.
appreciate
then.
that.
Right.
Thank
So-
you.
But my concern is just what's
Understood.
going to be
Understood.
in the backyard there.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, look for motion to close the
So
public
moved.
application.
Second.
Yeah.
Silvio and then
Do I
Julie.
have a second? All in favor?
Second.
Aye. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, last application this evening, but not least,
please,
on the
let it be a
fence
fence.
frenzy,
It is.
we'll continue. Application of Robert Sorensen, the variation of section 156-20, seeking a variance from permission to construct a fence along the front
There you
side
go.
of corner lot. Property is
there
located
yet.
at 1 Fabry Court,
Thank you for not putting it there.
Mahopac, New York, tax map 75.13-1-22. The code requires or allows a 4-foot tall fence in the front yard. What's provided is a 6-foot fence along Route 6N, so a variance is required of 2 feet. Good evening, sir.
Sir.
State your name and address for the record.
Robert Sorensen, 1 Fabry Court, Mahopac, New York.
Swear to tell the truth, raise your hand. The
Yes,
whole
sir.
truth and nothing but the truth,
I
so
do.
help you God.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, what's your situation here?
Do you guys have these lovely pictures? Yes, you do.
Yeah.
It's easier if I reference those. So I'm looking for a 6-foot along 6N. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pictures down. You can kind of get an idea from across the street, looking at the property from where that car is. The fence would start down there and find its way all the way past the drywall on the last picture to the very end there.
Go on top of the rock wall.
I got a surveyor coming out. My property line goes basically 10 feet back, so that's from the wall. And it
That
gets
rock
more
wall's right
narrow
away.
towards the far right, okay, where you're turning onto Fabry. And to be clear, this is not for sound barrier or for privacy. This is for safety. Cameron James he's almost 3 next month, and he's 41 inches tall. And I got another one due in July, and they're fast. And this slopes down, you can see from picture 3 or 4, that's from pretty much the back deck. It's about 25 yards to the street, downhill, and he wanders, as we all do, and it's for safety, to be clear. It's a corner lot, so obviously the side of my property is considered the front of my property, so a 4-foot would do, but considering his size and the cost of it, I figure requesting a variance would not hurt. So that's why I'm here, and to boot, it's 6N, and I'm sure you know, that comes down and it rounds out, and it's not a Prius in a residential area. I mean, these are 18-wheelers with excavators on top of them getting transported. Cement mixers, which he gets a kick out of, obviously, but I'm not worried about somebody jumping that wall. There's a big embankment, the drywall's there. It's to protect him from wandering down there. Grandma and Grandpa are too slow to catch him in.
I get that, and I respect your concerns, but I think a 4-foot fence would stop a man or a woman from still getting through it without having to hop or jump over it. So to that fact, I don't think you're right there about a child. It certainly would stop a child from it. You know, just in light of tonight and everything else that came in front of us, this, you know, it's the fence frenzy. We got to be fair in what we've done to the previous applications and to yours as well. Again, I respect your concerns, and, you know, safety is always top of my mind. I'm the safety manager at my construction company, so
Right.
safety is always number one. But, you know, I think it's a tough sell. It's a very long piece. I think a 4-foot fence would achieve the same, you know, outcome here, so.
That masonry retaining wall, that's up a couple of feet off the road from 6N, right?
It is, it is.
But is that on your property or is that in the right way?
That's state property.
That's the right way.
You'd start 10 feet in.
It depends which side of
I see
the
where you
yard
are.
you're on.
You know, you're 10 feet in.
Yeah, there you
come
go.
right to it.
Right.
Over here.
It's
You're gonna
not-
run this the whole way, right?
It's 215 linear feet. So basically, it's from the far right of that, John, to the far left there, to where, you know, the drywall would stop, well before the corner.
So it looked like 8 feet when you include the 2-foot wall plus the 2-foot stone wall. And then the 6 feet would look like 8 feet, which would really be intrusive.
From 6N, I'm not quite sure. I can't answer that, but it's gonna, of course, it's gonna look, the drywall's there. The issue is not somebody coming up over the wall. It's him getting down off the wall.
Right.
And where there's a will, there's a way. So again, it's not up yet. So I'm just here.
And we
trying to-
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mike, if he wanted to put in a 6-foot fence, where would he have to go?
On his property.
He's got
I-
a corner lot, right? This
On
is
a
considered
corner
like
lot,
a
you've
corner
got
lot?
you have two,
Oh, you mean where is he allowed? Yes, I
Yes.
showed him that little triangle in the back.
it
It's
would
very
have to
small.
be
In the
very.
back.
Yeah, it's,
Behind his house
Right.
and to the corner of his house, really, in the
And
back.
the shape of his lot made it even more
Yeah,
difficult.
it's a triangle.
Yeah, that's a jackpot, that lot, yeah.
I mean, I was inquiring with Campanella and a number of others, that they had suggested I can go from the far right down until basically the back of the house, 6 feet, and then 4 feet, and then I spoke to Mike, and Mike was like, no, it's 4 feet pretty much the whole way, so I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is waste the money. It's 14 grand. I mean, it's a long haul,
Yeah, this is not.
you know?
They'll do it in a day.
I love Anthony and Paul, but they're gonna sell you what they.
These are first world problems, guys. It's for safety. I mean,
We understand.
there's not much else to say. I mean, look, do people throw everything into the embankment and onto the curb in the lawn? Yeah, but I can care less about that. I'll pick it up, but that's all it's for. It's for stopping the kids from going down there.
I hear you.
And Brian Carney says hello, by the way. I don't know if that. He's a client of mine, real estate in Mahopac. I think he knows you, John.
Okay.
And Mike.
Is that Ken?
Kearney, Carney. It's pronounced correct.
Ken's son?
Yeah, I believe so.
All right. I don't know if there's any other solution. They could build a stone wall, but you're talking $20,000, $30,000, right?
And it can only be 4 feet tall.
Still only 4 feet.
And stone walls are climbable.
I mean, you could put a chain
Yeah,
link.
right, exactly.
Chain link will be a lot cheaper, but it still can't be 6 feet.
Well, chain link, it can only be 4 feet.
You could climb
right?
that easy.
And I can't, I can't do a 2 foot and then a 4 foot, right? I mean, I was told maybe you could put some mulch and then something on top of it, but from what you said.
You could make it 3 feet and put some barbed wire on top. It'll definitely not go over.
The kid's an animal. He's huge.
electrified.
My grandfather was 6'7". He's got his genes, so he's just gonna be huge.
Well, put a basketball court in the garage, in the driveway, and
It's a nice piece of property. I cleaned it up nicely. it's wide open to 6N, and it's a state highway. It's just, there's a
Bad spot.
ton of
I
traffic.
know, I live off it.
Yep.
It's
I've
going downhill.
I've lived there for a year, and I don't know if that helps my case, but I'm here to stay. But there's been 3 accidents, 2 motorists and a motorcycle since I've lived there last year.
I believe that.
They went down, hit the wall.
Yeah, I know.
You know, it's just
I-
it is what it is. I mean, I'm pushed back off of it, but you find your way down there. The shed's down there. The balls are traveling down there. He's running around. So
Yeah,
What
this
about a
is tough
4-foot
one,
fence and
sorry.
some trees?
I looked at the trees. I mean, there's irrigation. I got to get the water down there.
Agreed.
It's the expense of it. It's like,
Trying to help you.
no, I hear you. I went that route. I
Keep
looked.
your
I talked to
costs
my.
down. That's why I said a black chain link fence kind of blends in with everything, but then you put some evergreens along it. You don't need to water evergreens. They'll seek their own.
They'll grow.
They'll
They will grow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Something
yeah.
to consider.
It is indeed. Yeah.
But,
You'll work it out.
It's a
We
tough
all
one.
have.
I'm sorry, we can't, I don't think we're not geared towards letting this fly tonight.
Do you have a pool there? Is that actually installed?
It's gone now. It was taken out far before the builder redid it. And believe it or not, the 4-foot is actually more expensive than a 6-foot. Because they make the 6-foot in.
Because it's only 4 feet long?
Well, they mass produce 6 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it has to do with the production.
I don't care about the expense, guys, honestly, it's just,
All right, you guys have any other questions or concerns?
I appreciate the time.
Thank
All
you.
right, anybody from the public have any questions or comments on this? You want to come up on this one? I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Dismiss without prejudice?
No, yeah, we could do that when we get to the roll. I just did the other one because it was a hot topic.
Okay.
All right, look for a motion to close the hearing. I got
Motion to
that?
close.
All in favor? Aye. All right. At this point, there's no input from the public as we adjudicate on these applications this evening.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, holdover application number 1, Chavez and Toranzo. I'll look for a motion.
Motion to grant?
Small kitchen.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Application 2, Schmidt. I'll look for a motion.
Motion to grant.
Do I have a
Second?
second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Application number 3, Lionel Rivera. I'll look for a motion.
Motion.
Any conditions, or do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application number 4, Philip Lepore. I'll look for a motion.
Motion to deny.
Do I have a second? Second. Do I have any discussions?
This is a tough case
Yeah.
because he needs it
Yep.
to move forward, but yet,
I'm going to make a motion
Sorry,
to...
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
you can just
Sorry.
deny
You
his.
could amend the motion that's
I would
on the
amend the
floor.
motion.
Maybe.
All right, well,
We're
can
having
I,
a discussion, so we open it, we
Discussion.
have,
It's open
we
for
make a
discussion.
motion, we get it seconded, and then we have a discussion on this thing.
Right.
So, John?
We discussed the possibility of taking the shed and moving it 4 feet from the property, that would be 42 Cross Hill, okay, away from there, and cutting it down, so that variance to the side would go down to 4 feet. Additionally, we would put
No,
around,
It'd be 6 feet.
You provided 6.
You're right.
I'm sorry, provided 6 feet, but the variance would be only 4 feet.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And then additionally, to plant 6 to 8 foot high arborvitaes 3 feet on center around all 3 sides. That was something that could have been a
Well, 2 of the
possibility.
3 sites, I think, John, not the sites that abut the yard, the immediate yards, but it has to be close to the,
I think everyone
shed.
was surrounding him
Yeah.
on objections.
He'd have to reduce the height, too.
Well, if you moved it in, it would,
And-
it was back further.
and if we're gonna go down this path, the other thing we have to consider too is the time limit also.
Yeah, well, we can.
We
put
could
a time
time
period
bound
on that.
the variance.
well,
Unfortunately,
can I move to withdraw my motion, so there could be a motion that would?
Sure.
So I'm going to withdraw my initial
And
motion to
So
withdraw.
there's no motion right now.
There's no motion right
No,
now.
We went back, so I'll,
So I'll look-
because I
I'll look for a
seconded
new
his
motion.
I accept that, so.
Okay, so I'll look for a new motion. We have to have a motion to have a
To
discussion.
discuss.
So make your motion, John.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to grant the variance. He would have to provide 6 feet on the side. The variance would be 4 feet. And he would have to install 6 to 8 foot high arborvitaes, 3 feet on center. I propose to go all around the shed,
3 sides.
3 sides.
He's gotta get to the shed, so you don't want a tree.
I don't remember if he's got any room in the back of where it's built now. For
He's
instance,
got-
what I
he's
was
got,
thinking here,
he's got room.
just entertain me, here's the shed as it's built, right? Here's the other property line and the fence. So if you take this back, because it's built with the rafters
Yeah.
going this way, you take this back to 4 feet, you leave it the same
That's John's
width, not the length, so it's 12 feet, you're cutting it down to now 8, right? 8
Yep,
feet.
it's
So
8 feet.
8 feet by 8 feet.
You're not gonna get trees here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And the most affected side, and the only issue was with the neighbor to the right-hand side, and I was with her, I saw the property, I saw the shed from her property, and honestly, 3 or 4 arborvitaes on that side would totally screen what you can see from her house, because she has a garage here and a
Yes.
patio in the back. So literally, you can only see the shed from the patio portion. If you see that, that's a garage. So definitely 3 to 4 arborvitaes at 6 feet high on that side would totally screen it, shield it. So to help this guy somewhat, it's easy enough to build this thing back the 4 feet, but he's gonna have to drop the height too, I think, because even the other neighbor had an issue with the height on it.
The height's the problem. You could see it all the way around the corner,
So look,
past the woman's house.
all he's
You
gotta
could
do
see
is
how
take the
high.
rafters down, move this thing back the 4 feet, and cut the studs instead of 8 feet, which it looks like they are, Mike. Make them 6 feet, and he builds the rafters the same pitch as what he's got there now.
So no higher than 8 feet to the peak?
No higher than 8 feet to the
Yeah, I
peak.
think that's
To the
fair.
peak
And to the ridge,
Yeah, to the
or to the ridge?
the same thing,
the peak.
107.1.
8 feet to the ridge, 6 to 8 feet. Does that mean 6 foot, 8 foot, 7 foot?
6 to 8 feet, yeah. 6,
one?
7, or 8 feet. 6 foot minimum.
No, 8 feet to the ridge.
No, no.
Talking about the
Oh,
arborvitae's.
sorry.
6 foot arborvitae?
I
Yeah.
think
6
6
foot.
feet in a year, they'll grow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they grow a foot to 2 a year, so they'll grow.
6 feet arborvitae and every 3 feet, is that what you said?
Yes.
All right, do I have a second to that?
I'll second it,
Motion?
just to
With the
make it
timeframe?
legal. Yeah, so let's amend that, John, to give him, what's reasonable?
I think 6 months is.
6
It's
months.
what
It's
popped
gotta
in my
happen
mind.
this year.
6 months. So this variance is good, yeah, if he doesn't act on it, it expires in 6 months.
Then it's gotta come back and
Right.
we'll reject.
It's only
the
good
whole
for
thing.
6 months.
Well, it's good for if he builds it, but the
Variances
approval's
are
good.
granted
Variances
so
go
I
with the
can get
land.
permits. If I give a permit, he has a permit. So
Right.
if it's not done in 6 months, he has to come back to this board? Is that what he
Yes.
wants?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just clearing it up.
Yep.
He
No, 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 you're
stated
doing the right
tonight it
thing.
would take him a month, so we're
I know,
giving him
you're
that.
giving him more.
We're giving him reasonable time.
So-
And look, that'll give him some room to move whatever's in his house or in his mini storage thing into his shed, and that'll help alleviate another eyesore, and hopefully he'll continue on finishing the rest of the
Which
house.
is the
And we're
goal of this
cutting
whole
the
thing.
size to what? What is
It's
the
gonna
size
be
of it?
basically a,
8 by 8.
6, 8 by.
It's 8 by 8,
8
John.
by 8.
And Mike, so he can't move the whole thing. He can't move it, slide it down
No.
and keep it 8 by 12.
8
It's
by
got an
8
8 by
only.
8 shed from where it stands right now on the left side as you're facing his property.
And
He's
what
gonna
about
take-
moving that mini back onto his property?
I guess we can condition that, you're right, if that's a sticking point here.
Right, until that
That's in
many
the
comes
right of
into
way.
conformance,
He's gotta put it on his
can't-
property.
Oh, so
At
we
least have it on
have
his
to
property.
amend this, John, you have to amend
I
that.
have it all written, so.
No, he can add that to as a
I think Mike's
condition.
got everything
You
bulleted.
want me to read them out? so you can
Yes,
see?
and then we can go through it.
No more than 8 feet to the ridge, 6 foot arborvitae, 3 foot on center on all 3 sides except for the door side, right? Except for the house side.
Well, we were saying, we don't know if we can get it in the back.
No, you can't get in the back.
And on any other
You can't,
side.
there's
So the
only
two
2
sides.
feet.
Do we know if it's on
Two
dirt?
sides?
I would like to
sitting-
put it on 2
It's
sides.
sitting on cinder blocks.
On dirt?
There's like.
So he
under-
built a 1-foot deck, flat deck, and then he put this on top. So it's probably 9 feet up, and then the roof, whatever the roof is, 12 feet.
They're like pavers, they're not full cinder blocks. It's like.
You know, Mike, you'd only have to be on the one
The bottom is
side.
2 by 10.
42 is the only
Two by
one.
10?
Looks like it.
That's a 2 by 10?
That's what it looks like. It's pretty big, but regardless.
Just
All right,
put it on the
anyway.
one side.
3
you
foot
know.
on center, 6,
You can only go on one side.
Just do the one
He's
side.
gotta redo the rafters, so he'll build the rafters to whatever height we restrict him to.
8-foot ridge, 6 foot arborvitae, 3 feet on center, 6 months to complete the job, 8 by 8 shed max, no bigger, and move the mini pot
Yes.
Yeah, before you can get a CO.
Move it to, in
onto
conformity.
his property.
Onto his property.
We allow the pods during construction, but they can't be left out in the right of way. Plows can hit them, God forbid a car hits it, you know, it's in the
No,
right of way.
no, no, it's a safety issue, 100%.
Okay, John, do you agree to as written?
As written
All
by,
right, so that's your motion?
that's my
And I was the
motion.
guy that second, so I agree to the
Silvio
changes.
seconds to that,
Yep.
okay? Any other further discussions?
Let's have a vote.
Call it.
All right, so roll call vote. John, you're for the,
For the motion.
Rose,
For the motion.
Phil,
Against the motion.
Silvio,
For the motion.
Julie,
For.
and I'm for the motion. So it just carries. All right, application number 5, Mattson, I look for a motion.
Motion to grant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application number 6, Torres Santana. Looking for a
Motion to grant. With the condition?
Oh, crap. What was the condition again? There was the,
There's another Santana.
Oh, it's a
Excuse me,
different-
this is the first Santana.
This is the first one.
There was no condition there.
that's what I'm saying, there was no condition there.
I just saw the name.
No condition.
There
with
was
the
no
first
condition on this one, that's why. Ooh, you had me panicking in my notes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Did you get a second?
Number 7, David and Evelyn Santana.
These lovely
Look
people.
for a motion.
That was a motion to grant the 52-inch across the front of the house. Because it's slotted 4 inches, we would approve that. And then remove 3 6x6 panels, 18 feet, along the driveway.
Remove or
Oh, sorry, reduce.
Reduce to 4 feet.
Remove or
in
lower.
conformance.
So we say lower, reduce
To 4 feet
to 4 feet high.
On the right-hand side.
Not on the driveway side, on the other.
On the other side.
Yeah.
On the side.
Easterly.
Easterly property.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
How many sections was that?
That was 3 sections.
Three
Three
sections.
sections.
3 sections.
Any further discussion? Questions, comments?
No.
Roll call vote. Julie?
4.
Silvio?
4.
Phil?
4.
Rose?
4.
John?
I made the motion, I'm for it.
Of course you are.
Better be.
I gotta hear it, I gotta hear it. And I'm for the motion, so it's approved as so.
Have a good night. Have a good night.
All right, good night, folks.
Good luck.
Application number 8
Held
is we
over.
held over. Application number
Did we
9,
vote on that?
Patty, look for a motion.
Motion to dismiss without prejudice.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's dismissed. And application number 10, Sorensen,
Motion to dismiss without prejudice.
I'll look for a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Minutes.
Minutes from February 23rd, 2023.
Motion to
accept.
approve as written.
Second.
So I have second.
Second.
All right, no, minutes from March 23rd, 2023.
Motion to accept.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to
Adjourn?
adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
All right, I'm out next month. So
I miss you
Phil's
already.
gonna run the helm.